aren't really.
Okay, so self-defense has already been brought up. I have, I believe this is from Clifford's Law Center. Only 10% of firearm-related homicides are in self-defense. The rest are suicides, anger-induced brawls, domestic disputes, heat-of-the-moment situations. Doesn't that undermine the argument that we need guns for self-defense if 90% of the time they're used offensively and unjustifiably?
So you're making the claim that just because so that 10%, right? 10% of people using it in
90% of the
self-defense.
time guns are used offensively and criminally. Yes, it's not 90% of the time you cannot justify firearm-related homicides. I shouldn't have said suicides, by the way. My apologies for saying that.
Okay. So you want to completely outlaw them at all? Like all of them?
No, I'm more in line with Cynthia's arguments. I don't support banning all firearms.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't think that's realistic. We still
We're
have
the
very
only
toxic gun
fucking
culture.
country that has open fucking death rallies, and fucking you can't even go to school and feel safe because that's already like a fucking hell.
I don't know. I personally I feel more safe in Texas than I do in
We're
in
the
New York.
only
New York
country
has,
with this
oh
problem.
my
New York
God,
has this
okay,
most.
We're the
push back
only
against gun
country
laws.
with this problem.
Right.
Yeah, really.
I have to push back against
And you
that.
think giving more guns is it?
Okay, officer,
Oh
I have
my
to
God.
I have to tell you something. So, the Clifford's Law Center study I'm referring to, and I'll link it in the chat. It observed firearm-related homicides by every state. The top 5 states with the tightest gun control have a homicide rate of 2.4 per 100,000. The loosest, which would include Texas, is 6.3 per 100,000. Furthermore, New York City has a firearm-related homicide rate of 5.4 per 100,000, while Dallas, Texas, is 13.4 per 100,000. So, objectively speaking, you are safer in New York than in Texas.
So the question then comes at it. So is the study saying that handguns
Yeah.
are so bad, right?
This is a
handguns
handgun
are the
problem.
ones that
Yeah.
are used, hold on. Because
Sorry,
handguns are the ones that are used most in gang warfare, right? So if
In
gang
all
warfare
violent
And
crimes,
muggings
suicide
and
as well.
robbery. Yeah.
Even when you
And
control to the amount that are owned, it's still
Right.
even in suicides more often.
Okay,
It's just
so
because
if
handguns
you
are way
take away
easier.
if you take
Yeah,
away
they're
the
just
fact that handguns
versus
let's
like.
just make the hypothetical. You take away handguns, people are just going to move to rifles.
No. As a matter of fact, when you take away shall issue concealed carry permits, you absolutely don't see them moving to rifles. You just see decreases in overall violent crime rates. We have direct empirics on this. There is no argument in favor of holding handguns.
The question then comes at it. So these people that are getting these illegally, because that's still going into the crime, or going into that statistic,
Yes.
are just going to get it illegally from other
No.
states. That's not basing off
No.
of if there's absolutely
No, that's just
handguns.
fear mongering.
No, Officer Wolf, the studies that we're referring to absolutely do still include those people who have gotten it illegally. The issue is it's way easier to get your gun illegally when you can steal it from somebody's car than it is when you have to go out of state to go get it. What you do is you absolutely do decrease the rate of overall homicide. You decrease the rate of overall violent crime. These are just the plain statistical facts. There's no argument that you can make against these. All the things you're doing so far have just been detracting from the main argument. There is no route. The only route here is to get rid of the handguns. There's no other excuse.
I just don't see it working that way. You get rid of handguns, and it's gonna go to some other form of weapon to go against.
They're
someone
much
else.
harder to conceal and hold around. You can only open carry a rifle versus whereas you can hold a pistol, like you can conceal
Exactly.
carry.
How are you gonna tuck a rifle into your waistband?
So,
Or go to a
an
public place or
example
something.
From another country,
Mhm.
in Canada, rifles and shotguns are actually still quite common. If you go to rural areas, basically every other household has them. And the predominant form of and handguns are much rarer. And the gun predominantly used in crimes is still handguns. What is the source? The United States. So it's a case of even in places that have much more difficulty accessing handguns are still the predominant gun used, and the US has handguns that are so ubiquitous that they're flowing over an international border significantly into Canada, If you look at just the city of Atlanta, they had over 1,000 handguns stolen from cars. In the U.S., the number of handguns stolen from cars is just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because people are just leaving them in cars, like in glove boxes.
It sounds like the issue is handguns. And if we, you know, I mean, obviously it would be a huge undertaking to get rid of them. But yeah, go ahead, Synth.
Here's my recommendation to the pro-gun side. If you want an argument where there's still nuance, where there's arguments to be made, you just have to cede the territory on the handguns. You just have to completely give that up. The only arguments you can make are going to be very, very complicated ones about the rifles, and there are people here who are willing to argue against those. The issue is, though, you have no ground to stand on when it comes to the handguns.
I do have
So,
to ask though.
the other question
do we all
is-
agree that one thing we could do as a policy overall is increase the standards for getting permission to own a firearm? Like in
If-
Sweden, I believe you have to go through a year's worth of hunting-related training, and you have to take a written test and a shooting test to show that you know how to use a firearm and you know the consequences and that you're psychologically well. Do you agree that we should have higher standards for who is allowed to own a firearm? We should have better background checks. You need to own a license, not own a license, have a license to own a firearm. Will we all agree with that standard across the board?
Question.
I think that it should obviously be tested, but I'm not super concerned, especially with the whole if it's rifles versus handguns. I think that it's as long a competency test is very important and like mental stability, but I don't think having like a mental illness or something, certain ones at least, should be reasons to prevent people from purchasing firearms. I think it should be allowed, but it should obviously like a car. You still need a competency test, in my opinion, more so than a psychological test. Those though, I mean, I think that there should be some sort of thing there, but
I also
With the
gotta
mental
be
illness?
honest.
Question.
Yeah, exactly.
I also have to be honest. I was expecting there to
Anyone
be
with
like
the okay.
I was just gonna say, forgive me if I'm not saying much because, you know, I was expecting there to be more conservative and libertarian type folks coming in here, and that's who I was prepared to
too.
debate, not leftists who are pro-gun. So I apologize for being quiet.
yeah, no, I think that's all we are really mostly. But I learned about the handgun
here's-
thing here, so I didn't know that. That was cool.
Who's pro gun?
The other question is okay.
Most
so
just
I just
Who
looked
here
this
is
up.
pro gun?
I know
I am
Wolf,
pro-gun.
I think.
yeah, I
Wolf
think.
is-
And wait,
I think
you,
Alexis, but
you
Alexis
said
have a
you said
monitor.
something before.
Yeah, I am.
You were aware and you were supportive of giving guns to people with mental illnesses. That should be to an extent.
That's not what I said. I said
Point of
I said that I
clarity.
think that we should widen
Oh,
the.
yeah.
That is what you said.
Hold on one
Yeah.
second,
Why didn't
yeah,
we-
Blackjack, you have a question?
Where?
Yeah,
To
Point of
what?
point of clarity. So are we
One thing at a
arguing
time.
the point as to what could be done, or what morally should be done?
I
Well, what
think.
should a lot implies can, right?
Yeah, I was about to say Adam.
No, I mean
Yeah.
in this context, let's say politically and legally
Does
is what can be done.
I think
Um,
ideally, if you can, you just act like other countries, not like fucking insane.
But yeah, but that's
wackos.
sort of after the point. What I'm
You-
saying
you
is, are
shouldn't
we
do
arguing
things
for
you
what
can't
could or
do.
what you should?
You shouldn't do things you can't do.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
We
a
should
delineation from it.
just argue on the best possible solution.
Exactly.
That-
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
but see, here's the thing: you can like philosophically argue a number of best possible solutions that will absolutely have no bearing on reality.
So
Well,
those would be bad
obviously,
choices. It
yeah,
wouldn't
we're
be the best
not-
Possible because
No,
they're
no,
not
I
possible.
mean
Yeah.
like, okay, like let's say for argument, we get bicameral agreement to pass some form of, hypothetically a really
Mhm.
easy one that has broad applicable standards. Like right now in current politics is like background checks. Most people support background checks, but the odds of
Yep.
getting it passed are unrealistic.
Yeah, I would loosen most restrictions, in my opinion.
are you Cynthia, here's a question for you. Are you in favor of then banning rifles from removing stocks?
Banning rifles from like having removable stocks. No, I don't give a fuck about that.
Well, then it's considered a pistol.
Oh,
But is it?
Well,
Well, does that
The issue is
affect
when
the
it comes to overall-
studies? Yeah.
No, hold on,
Technically
hold on. I'd love to address the question that was asked to me. Okay. So yeah, officer, when it comes to the specific idea of like making your rifle sufficiently small so it could be concealed carry or
Mhm.
concealed carried, then I would say in those cases I would be in favor of like banning those from production. The issue with like a rifle with like a removable stock or something is like it can still be large enough so that you can't reasonably concealed carry it. I understand like the existing laws around like what qualifies as a pistol or a rifle are kind of strange. The issue is, though, like, we both have to agree that pistols are something we should get rid of. The pistols that we talk about, not the pistol that we talk about, like, existing in current, I think, fucking NFA law.
Yeah.
Like
The point is
I don't
to
know.
promote,
The way
remove
that I-
concealed carry, I think is what he's saying. Make
the
it
way,
all
the way
open.
that I look at it is that, like, I'm just trying to put myself in. a
What they're
person that
saying, I'm sorry.
has has malicious intent. If you take away pistols, they're gonna do everything and anything they can to conceal another form of weapon to have
Like a
an upper
knife,
hand on
right?
you, right?
Like a knife, or a stun gun, right? Or a taser, right?
Yeah, those are what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And like you said, all of these you think are less effective. I think they're less effective at killing people. I don't think they're less effective at stopping crimes, but we both agree they're less effective at doing something.
I've seen studies that actually also knives are people are more likely to scream for help when they see a gun, whereas when they see a knife, they for some reason have a more silent, shocked reaction. So that actually could be more knives could be more dangerous, and that happens a lot in the UK because of their strict gun laws.
Well,
they have a lot of knife
I mean,
crime.
because
Say
you have
this,
to
but
be- you have to be-
statistically, we just have empirics that show the opposite is the case. Like, just fortunately enough, right? It's not the case that knives actually cause this great undermining of social safety in the same way that guns do.
Yeah, I
If you
can
did have an
say
argument
that.
showed like the amount of good knives produced by like being able to cut red or something,
Mhm.
or like cut meat or whatever, is like gonna outweigh the downsides of like the stabbing or whatever. Then we can talk about that, but it's just kind of irrelevant to the discussion.
Yeah, well, because I was just saying because again, having it was just I don't know. I forgot what I was saying at this point. Actually, never mind.
Oh, good.
Because
Yeah,
at-
good talk.
like I said, at this point, I'm looking at it from people that are that would be the likelihood of being attacked, right? 'Cause
Mhm.
I can understand that. Yes, pistols are, right? They can also be used for harm. But I wholeheartedly agree that somebody who's maybe short or weaker stature would definitely have a better fighting chance against someone who's much
Wait, whoa.
larger and is willing to mug that person.
You just said you're trying to focus on the people who are the most likely to be attacked.
Or the most likely to be able to not defend themselves, which are two different categories, but they could be combined.
Yeah, those are very different because
Mhm.
the issue is like when you specifically talk about people who are like smaller or shorter to stature, and like earlier you mentioned women. These are the people who are the least likely to get attacked. Most victims of violent crime are going to be men.
Yeah, and there's
I don't think that male lives are like less valuable than female lives. So I think that it's important for us to make sure that we decrease the amount of deaths overall, regardless of like who those deaths are coming from.
Yeah, so I have a question. So not accounting death, but accounting like muggings and stuff like that. If we were to get rid of pistols and stuff, I mean, I still think most muggings occur using just knives anyway. So I think that it would. I don't know. I mean,
You have data on that?
I'm not sure. I read something somewhere. I'll look it up. I'll see if I can find something. But because
Isn't the knife crime in Europe like really, really, really bad?
that's what
because-
I've heard. Yeah.
because of that?
No,
Less-
overall
it's like
homicide
a
rates in
tenth of
these
the
European
US.
countries are lower than the U.S.
It's like 1 to.
But not homicides, but
5
the
1,000?
crime of like
Right, the knife-
attacking
like,
someone with a knife.
crime went up a lot. Yes.
Yeah, so they're
It
not
would
resulting
actually
in
matter if
death.
Knife crime goes up. as
What
long as the
matters
overall
is
crime
if
rate
the
goes down.
overall crime
Yeah.
is down, like some said.
Not
So
exactly.
it's if knife crime goes up triple, like
Mhm.
muggings, but the actual number of muggings falls 50%.
Ah, yes.
Because more of them are done with knives, but the actual
Okay.
number decreases substantially. That's still a win, even if
Yes.
technically the percentage involving knives went up.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I don't actually think that like it's more immoral to mug somebody with a knife than it is to mug somebody with a gun, and I think we can all agree on that. They're equally
Yeah.
bad, right? So it doesn't matter which kind is like more common, as long as we make sure that the overall number is lower.
yeah, not to mention if of course we increase other social safety areas, just because everything's connected, there would be less muggings in general anyway. But where did you get where did you get all your data on this stuff? Because I'd like to look it up myself.
Sure. Which specific claim do you want data on? I got it open right now.
The thing about that pistols are that like rifles are basically okay, but pistols or rather handguns are a problem.
Sure. So the FBI has specific breakdowns of which types of weapon are used in which types of crime. I could also provide you specific data from I believe this is a Harvard study. I'll go make sure to grab that for you, and I'll let you read through all of that too.
Perfect. Just
Just
send
go
it to
ahead
me
and
and stuff.
Let's just put it in VC chat. 'Cause
Yeah, that's
I
perfect
would
for
like to
everybody.
Look at that as well.
Okay, this is from I'll give you the Sci-Hub link actually, so you can just get it directly through the whole PDF if you'd like. This is a Donahue study, and it is going to be in VC chat.
Cool. I'm gonna check that out later though.
Sure, and here's another one. This is a Luca study.
Good shit.
This one shows that waiting periods reduced homicide and suicide.
For receiving all kinds of firearms.
The Donahue one was about right to carry. This is here's another. This is one for concealed carry, which shows an increase in violent crime rates in particular. Overall violent crime rates, not just the ones using guns. Here's this isn't causal data, but this one's corollary. It's from Fliegler, and it shows that more laws on firearms are correlated with fewer firearms per capita and fewer firearm deaths per capita.
All right.
I don't have the Sci-Hub link to that, but I can grab you it if you like. I don't think you'll need it. There it is. All of those show pretty solid, just data-driven argument. They're it's just kind of like a blowout on this. There's just not an argument in favor of keeping the handguns around.
So.
The tyranny argument is obviously which kind of gun do you think is going to be better at that? Not handguns, right?
Yeah.
You'd rather have more soldiers with rifles than you'd have 3 soldiers who have rifles and handguns, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You just kill off your revolutionary population when you have handguns around.
Yeah, so that's an interesting. That's good to know for when I get mine. And also, is there evidence that I guess because muggings, because my other issue is non-fatal attacks with weapons of all kinds, and from tasers to knives to guns. If we get handguns are the worst, and that and obviously if we improved social situations, people would be mugging people less anyway because they would have no reason to be out on the street robbing people.
So yeah, obviously there's a link between poverty and crime, and decreasing poverty will decrease crime. But it's also best to make sure that we can allow people to have the conditions to get themselves out of poverty as well.
Yeah.
And I think one way to do this is making sure they're not going to die in poverty due to handgun violence.
So do you?
There more than one policy can be effective at a thing. I think we should be doing all of the good policies, not just one of them.
Now, since we believe in maximizing freedom too, eventually, I mean, would you just completely want, I'm sorry, that was just an assumption that I figured. But anyway, let's say we got rid of the handguns. Would there ever be a time where it would be okay to just make them legal for, again, just to have around? Because again, they are the most dangerous, but do you think that we could perhaps, if we decrease the poverty and mugging rates, that, because I mean, just the guns themselves aren't the problem. The fact that they can be concealed and then used to attack people is, and are used for that is. So I mean,
so the function of the gun is the problem. I agree, but the nature of the gun is what causes its function, right?
Yeah. So it's
so there's no way to strip those two things or take them apart, right? They're always going to be connected.
Yeah. So I guess what happens when they can make? Well, I guess I actually think then that the solution to, because another thing people bring up is the new 3D printed guns. If you make it easy to.
Yeah, the 3D printed guns are kind of memes. There are better 3D printers now that make you so you can actually fire more than one fucking round through them.
Yeah.
But these are you still have to have notable amounts of metal parts. It's already the case that you can build the guns without 3D printers, right? Doesn't change the empirics. You can go to Home Depot. You can buy you can buy the right size of pipe so that it'll fit a .22 caliber bullet, and you can build a simple system to hit the back of the .22 bullet, right, and shoot it and launch it out, right? This isn't complicated. 4-wind shotguns have existed for a very, very long time and have been used all around the globe. It's just not the case that this actually matters, right?
Yeah.
A criminal who's really wants to mug people is not going to go to Home Depot and learn to build guns from scratch.
Yeah.
They're not going to go buy a $300 3D printer and start printing shit out, right? What they're going to do is they're going to steal some shit from somebody.
So what's this? How do we do this? Because I mean, do we just outlaw handguns, or what are some of the methods? Do we?
No.
We don't completely moved away from the moral complicity of just having guns in general.
Are there people who disagree with that? Do you think that people shouldn't have guns?
I think so. I think you can make an argument at least for like.
If
not
you'd
having
like
any.
to, we can discuss that. I disagree. I think that they are.
I'm saying on a wider general basis.
Yeah,
because
yeah, no,
right
go
now
ahead.
we're speaking right in terms of like the limits of the law.
Yeah, but no, here, go ahead.
Well,
Like,
we
what
can-
is? Do you think that society would be overall better if we were to, outlaw people having weapons?
Well, I mean,
Guns,
like,
specifically.
I think your best argument, you have two arguments, right? You have
Mhm.
we're gonna have a revolution with these guns
Mhm.
somehow, or we need them for self-defense. But I mean,
Or
if
just
you're-
for
if you
fun.
go-
You could just
you
own
don't-
a gun.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Whatever. If you want, if you have a hobby, that's cool.
Mhm.
I mean, but if you're with any sort of deadly tool
Mhm.
comes with responsibility, and not everybody can carry that in a reasonable way.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Especially but in terms of self.
That doesn't mean that they should be
If you
completely
pose
illegal,
no
though.
risk, if you pose no original risk of being shot at, like if you just have no guns, if you just have no guns available to the public, like it is
Mhm.
like it is in other countries.
Mhm. I think
and
Australia
you
is
pose
one.
no real risk, which I mean, and people still get shot at in other countries, but it's not as often. You make it less. You make it much less available here.
Mhm.
You pose less of the risk of getting shot at, thus you also have less of a reason to use them as for self-defense. So I'm sitting here asking why we need them at all.
Well,
We don't.
I mean, you don't have to if you don't want one, but it is important to have access to them because of things like self-defense and revolutionary action, and as well as sporting and
No,
just
but
their
I'm
their
saying
thing.
both of those arguments are completely bonked. Like in terms of like if we act them out reasonably, both of those arguments don't really make any sense.
I just
So then there's no real reason to have.
well, I
To
guess
me,
yeah, it's just a
listen,
philosophical
listen, I go
disagreement
back
then.
and I'll be honest, like I go back and forth on this issue all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was probably pro gun like maybe like 6 months ago, and then like I don't know, like I always change my mind. I'm always on the fence on this one, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, I just can't find a reasonable, sensible reason to have guns. I can't find
In
a
an
reason
enlightened society, you
when
mean
when
though?
it's not
When
it's
not like right
it's
now.
Not how it works in other countries.
Really enlightened society? Are we serious?
I'm asking if that's what you mean. Like assuming all other problems were solved where we didn't need guns, it
So
would
is
be
this all
best to
purely
get rid.
hypothetical?
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
that's what I'm asking. Like for Mr. Big Mad Crab, like are you like what is like do you honestly think that the world right now as it is would be better without gun if we tried to outlaw
but-
guns and everything?
Can I rewind for like maybe
I
40
think if we
seconds
made
here
it
with-
work how it does in other countries, it would be a lot. I think we would see a lot less.
Yeah, and that'd be nice, but it's the United
Mhm.
States. We probably can't.
Yeah.
I don't mean like shouldn't or I don't.
Yeah,
Literally, it would be
Yeah,
impossible. Yeah.
That's why.
And they
I'm
wouldn't
saying-
win.
The amount of guns that end up on
That's
our
why I'm
streets.
saying. That's why I'm saying. Let's talk about the moral complicity of like what this does. to
Which-
our
Okay,
country.
but the moral complicity is we want to be able to easily kill people when we see discretionary need. Like that's
Okay,
literally
that's
it.
great.
Sometimes you need to create violence in the name of protecting other people. The people who have the most guns right now are the right wingers. So like if it comes down to like I don't want a revolution to be a part of that, but like if that comes down, the people who are going to win are going to be the people with the guns. So I think that it's a
Yeah, but it's a bit of a fallacy to say the most. If you want to talk about rural-urban divide, that'd be fair because of the way municipalities restrict gun usage and ownership. But it's probably a lot more evenly divided down the political spectrum than you expect. It's probably mostly about what kind of municipal restrictions exist upon ownership and use. I mean, if you want to make an argument
I
for
think-
stockpiling or ammo ownership in bulk, okay, yeah, then you might have some point there. But I know plenty of Democrats with 20, 30,000 rounds of ammo.
I do too, especially because it's coming. I just don't see a moral, a true, actual, because I personally want to maximize freedom for as many individuals as possible. Actual freedom, not like the ability to not get taxed on your profits or something. But like, so if somebody wants to own a gun and wants to design guns or really likes the idea of them, I think that they should be allowed to do it, and given, under certain, like, restrictions and certain guidelines. But like, I don't see anything wrong morally with just owning a gun. It's like having a sword on display or something. It could just be like a piece of art that you like.
But realistically, let's
Hey, what
go
about
with
owning
that.
a grenade? Should people be able to own live grenades?
No, but that's a high
Oh, nuclear
explosive and
weapons.
kind of a radically different notion. And there
That
are
is a good
people
question,
that
though.
Need, but Smiley
Let's go
mentioned a
further.
revolution.
Tanks.
Wouldn't you need hand grenades in a revolution?
Dude, come on,
That's
you
what
have
I'm
people
saying.
that-
No,
Yeah,
we're
that-
gonna need tanks. What about tanks?
You can own a tank in
Exactly.
Wisconsin.
So yeah, where we draw the line is a good question, and that's something I'm willing to discuss. I think guns are okay. And a live grenade in I guess that, I mean, I don't know, they have to exist somewhere, right? Like maybe but maybe not like a
lots of them, too.
personal.
But they're-
Yeah.
They're really highly controlled.
Yeah, and so I
There's
guess
a
it's
grenades.
I
You have special
will.
purpose for them.
Yeah, I don't know, but I like the idea of like being able to go on YouTube and see someone else like throw a grenade and test them and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but
So
they
I
get
want
special
people.
purpose exemptions.
Yeah, which is I think is fine. So I agree that there are restrictions in that case that are
Somebody
important.
mentioned 3D printed guns earlier. What
That
I'm
was
actually
me.
kind of
Oh,
curious
yeah.
about is if that's the case, then like depermissing people from being able to access guns through like normal means
Hmm.
shouldn't actually be like a thing that would combat the Second Amendment at all. In fact, you'd still be able to do the sort of like defending against tyranny that you want, given you could just 3D print the guns, right?
I mean,
Mhm.
it's the defending against tyranny argument is more rhetoric and a political piece of its time than it is a contemporary argument.
Well,
Mhm.
it's if that's your like view on the Second Amendment, like
No,
the
it's
whole
not
defending against
strictly my
tyranny
view on
is
the
like-
Second Amendment. I'm talking about the
defending against
crafting
tyranny.
of
Hold on, really quick. If the defending against tyranny aspect is not the part that you value, then there's no aspect of it that's even true. The guns don't actually help
that's
you do any of the other
not
things.
strictly. Look, are we talking about what we want to be true, or are we talking about the textual interpretations of the law relative to
We're,
the spirit of the
talking about the
interpretation of
empirical
crafting?
facts and reality, which is just the fact. It's just the case. that,
Really?
Like, handguns are not good for society overall. They don't actually do anything to defend you. It's
But that's
bad
not
to have
why
those.
tools
You end up
exist,
getting
and
more
you-
likely to be killed by a handgun.
There
than
are
you to be
lots of
saved by
things,
your own.
not the least of which is like say tobacco and cigarettes, that are not good for society writ large, but they
Mhm.
exist largely for greed, profit, and independent motivation.
We actually probably should have a ban on tobacco. I'm sorry, but that's like if that's just your
No,
argument.
I mean,
we're
yeah, you're
fine.
probably
No, I think all drugs should. I think they should be legalized, but they obviously should be regulated in certain ways. But like I'm
We
kind
should
of.
legalize consumption, but regulate. We should have
Yeah.
But here's,
regulate
that's
almost
the thing,
out of
is, yes,
existence.
it
Consumption
should
should be
technically
legal, yes.
banned. Wait. It should be banned, but is it going to ever be? No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not
Tobacco?
something that's realistically ever going to happen.
Whoa,
We
hold
talked
on. That's not even
earlier-
true.
wait.
I mean,
Wait,
No,
wait,
no, no, no.
wait.
That's not even
We
true.
talked
Yeah, here, let's-
earlier, there was a very specific term that was said. If it's not realistic, then it's not a good idea.
Yeah, Victoria,
Yeah.
the issue is we disagree that it's not realistic. We all think
Okay.
it is realistic. We're getting
Well, hang on,
a
answer me
realistic
this.
Okay.
argument.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on. In the specific case of tobacco, it's absolutely the case that it's realistic. We've absolutely drastically increased regulations on tobacco companies
Mhm.
and reduced the amount of people using them in society. Eventually, at some point, maybe call it 50 years down the line, it could
And then
absolutely be
the
the case that we
tobacco
ban it
industry
entirely.
Keeps giving the government
It
more
could
money,
be, but
telling them more,
I don't see the point.
lessen the regulations over
I
time.
I don't agree that it would be a good idea to
It won't ever happen.
destroy it. Yeah, to completely
Just-
outlaw it, I don't think would be a
Like,
good
I'll
idea.
say- I'll ask Maria this, right? In Australia, what do they do in Australia with smoking and tobacco?
Yeah, so Australia has one of the lowest smoking rates in the world, and that's usually attributed to two policies. The first is plain packaging of cigarettes,
Yeah.
and the second is the tax. There's a third policy that people just talked about, which is the ban of advertising, and that's also enforced in Australia. I'm not quite sure how that compares to other countries, and as a result, especially young people, it's like smoking rates are very down. There was actually talk
Mhm.
about
Oh, yeah.
anybody that was born after the year 2000 will never be allowed to purchase a cigarette. That was literally policies that were debated in Parliament.
Wow, that's
Like
crazy.
Yeah, so-
Australia isn't an allowed
I'd like
society
to say
to
something at some
Okay,
point.
they were
They-
debated, but were they passed?
Victoria,
they
it's,
weren't,
it's,
but like,
it's
yeah,
unrelated because the whole point you said is that this is unrealistic. This is impossible. It's
They
absolutely
still-
possible.
Yeah.
If they're being debated now, and 50 years down the line, if this thing is obviously a good policy, it's more than likely the case that this will get passed. What we've seen is since 1965, it used to be the case that 42% of adults were absolutely smoking, and now it's 13%. Back in only 1997, it was 36% of youth, underage people were smoking. Now it's 8%. We've absolutely drastically improved on
I feel
it.
like you're kind of
in
falling
fairness,
off the
in
point of why I
fairness,
brought up the smoking in
smoking
parallel to
rates
the
have
firearms.
actually increased slightly once the pandemic hit the United States. Once the
Yeah, but that's
the
a
lockdowns,
mid-area
long-term
factor.
increase.
though, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well-
smoking rates are still increasing as far as
Okay.
I'm aware.
So hold on.
No,
I'll
they-
let you
look
here.
at
Hold on.
Guys,
What was your question?
Yeah,
Yeah. What was the question, Blackjack?
Yeah. Why the long-term
Let it
trends
pass.
Yeah. So hey, hold on a second. So we are veering way the fuck off.
Yes.
I don't give. I don't think any of our viewers give a fuck about smoking. Okay.
Yeah, and that also
So-
wasn't why I brought it
I
up.
think
To be
So
clear, I was
yeah.
trying to
So
make the moral parallel.
Yeah.
so let's get back on topic, and I want to hear. I want to hear Invalid. He just joined us. So Invalid, can you give us some of your opinions? You said you've been listening to the stream.
Yeah, so I'm a tanky, so I'm obviously in
Oh,
favor
boy.
of the proletariat being armed. The state is an apparatus to oppress one class by another, and that oppressed class needs to arm itself. The details, can vary as far as regulating, how that's carried out. Somebody brought up like mental health issues. I
Yeah.
could see that being negotiable, but otherwise, the proletariat must be armed.
I
period.
I was the one. Were you done speaking? I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that your point? It's invalid.
that's my
Yeah. Okay. So I brought up the mental health thing. I think that I think certain mental health issues should not be like things that get in the way of a gun. Obviously, certain ones should. But I think that I agree that the proletariat should be armed in case. But I also agree that I think that Synth is right, that I think that the best way to do it is to try to mitigate in the same way that we've been using education and like advertising and stuff like that to mitigate the sell and proliferation of tobacco. We could do that with pistols, but I still think that it's good to have. I think that we should have firearms. And even after a society, I don't see the problem with having them because in the same reason that I think that drugs should all be legal, I think the importance is education and, like education and people having access to their main material needs. Then after that, people should be able, and once they are learning and like understanding things and we just go to school for the fun of it, and we just do jobs based on what we want to do, I think that there'd be no problem having things like even like grenades and stuff that people would be legally allowed to have.
Smiley, can I
Listen,
ask
I'm
a very
willing
simple
to be
question here?
moved on
You
this.
about that?
I'm willing to be moved on
Let
this.
Blackjack
Sorry.
answer. What?
Okay, so I don't fundamentally disagree with any of the moral parts of the point you made. My question, and this is really where I root a lot of my views here, is that in what world are you going to have a competent, conscious, and considerate enough population to remotely achieve that? Like, I'm not even saying that you're wrong, that education is the goal, that people need to learn, that learning needs to be more deeply enfranchised in the culture. Any trend you can look at going back probably 1,000 years says that a more educated culture is a wiser culture through behavior. But my point is that you're talking about, like, well, they can casually own grenades. And it's like, one, I don't think anybody who's responsible necessarily should even own fucking grenades just because of the potential for what can be done with them. And it's a hell of a lot more than blowing a small hole in the ground. Like, that's a powerful enough high explosive that you can rupture and ignite liquid fuels. You can make very, very big bombs with a very, very small bomb.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I would imagine that there wouldn't be a lot of grenades available.
Okay, but my point here is it just
Or
when
around,
I say
rather.
very, very big and very, very small bomb is that you don't have to have a society of enlightened individuals. You have 99% adoption.
Yeah, you
rate
just need
for
one.
enlightened philosophy. You need one. You need one out of every million, and that means you're going to have a few hundred a year.
And that is where
Easily
things
within the U.S. population.
Well, that's where things. I think that a post-capitalism society would have a lot more open access to data, and then we could use things like people's mental
But
health
why is that
issues.
necessarily inherently a good thing? Look around since the burgeoning of the internet. We've got more data at our fingertips, both as a species, a collective, a society,
There's
as
no
a
gun.
do it however you want. and we're probably some of the most radically politically unstable we've been since the early 20th century.
Because we're finally getting access to these ideas, and also these ideas are being suppressed and surpassed,
yeah,
and
but see,
we're in a
that's-
tumultuous time in human history. Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah,
Yes,
the,
but we've been through many
the
tumultuous times in
contradictions
human
of
history. My
capitalism
point-
are being exacerbated more than ever.
That's
So
just
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous given that the market volatility is lowering over time.
Yeah,
But specifically on the gun topics,
volatility
kind
has
of what we're
dropped.
trying to stick to
I mean,
here.
politically,
feel like
we
we're kind of-
literally
Hold
just
on,
had
hold
a
on,
bunch
hold
of
on, really
people
quick.
in the
When it
U.S.
comes to the gun
Capitol.
topic, when it comes to the gun topic, if
Yeah.
you actually want to make sure that the revolutionary action that you want to do is even possible,
How
it's really
violent
good to
was
reduce
that?
the amount by which a huge portion of those revolutionary proletariat that you want are killing each other off. And so reducing those handguns in society is a major way in which we can do that. So removing those shall issue laws is a massive, massive benefit there. On top of that, if you take a look at the countries that are most likely to have revolutions, historically, it has been the ones with the least number of firearms on.
Beyond the mental issue, I wanna ask, how do you properly arm yourselves for this revolution? I wanna know, because I'm willing to be moved. If you can tell me, how are we gonna properly arm ourselves? Like, let's say, like, we forget the mental health stuff.
Guerrilla warfare. I mean, guerrilla
Yeah.
warfare has worked in
Do
multiple.
you think that's
multiple
possible? The
wars.
most powerful military in the entire world, in the history of the
It's,
entire world?
these
Yeah.
things are still
That's not
fought by armies. The National Guard comes in when
They
there
could just
are
drop
civil
bombs
Yeah.
on
disputes.
us.
No,
They
no,
could
no,
just
hold
drop
on.
bombs on us.
Gentlemen,
That
friends,
could
that's
happen.
not gonna. No, it's not. It's not even about the size of the army. It's about the technical prowess that exists within the later part of the 21st century we're into now. We're talking about drone systems that don't require more than maybe one operator for a swarm. And I want to be really clear here. I have some knowledge on this subject matter. What you guys are talking about might have worked in the late 60s. It's worked throughout the latter part of the 20th century. We have, Azerbaijan arming itself with a first world military because they're buying off of China, Israel, the United States, and the EU. That's just not realistic that you're going to take that down with a bunch of fucking rifles. You can look to their recent conflict with Armenia.
I don't
So,
really.
first of all, I don't.
You want to go?
Disagree with the premise that drones and the like will eventually be used within the U.S. There is a possibility. I'm not ruling that out by
I
any
mean,
means.
the legal law would have
9/11.
to change at the point right now. We're not
9/11.
legally allowed to do that.
But
We would have to
today,
do it in scale.
Yeah, but could you
today, what
imagine the
happens
United
when
States doing
there's-
that to their own citizens?
Yes, easily.
Yes, I can.
Depends on what
but
the DoD would be issued by
look,
the
here's
executive
the
branch.
point. Today and in the near future, the National Guard is who comes out when there's a disturbance.
If the
Drones don't come out. Okay. National
okay, but
Guard
that's
are
for
people.
civil disturbances. That's,
Well,
that's
you
for,
know, that's what we're talking about. Like
no, you're talking about
protests and
military.
things that.
No, he was
No,
talking
no,
about
no. Hold
militaristic
on.
revolution.
We're not talking about voluntarists. We're not talking about like crazy people going out and attacking the government or something. We're talking about people who are peacefully protesting that the government is trying to put down.
That kind
The
of a
National
shift in
Guard
the
comes
goalpost.
out.
Yes, that
No,
does
it's
that.
not.
But if you,
Yeah.
It's not shifting at all.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah, Black. So yeah,
Here's the problem. You don't understand when you're talking about a revolution. You don't talk about people getting guns and going out and attacking the government. They
Okay.
protest. They make their point.
Mhm.
The government has to put them down, and then you defend
And that's
yourself.
a very rosy proposition that the American government has not or would never do that. We have done that quite a few times.
well, that's why it would be
I
good
don't
to have
understand. How's that a
protection.
response to what I said?
especially-
They will.
What I'm
I'm
saying is, you're saying that if basically
But-
there's an armed assembly,
Mhm.
I mean, just to make sure I'm clearly interpreting you, an armed assembly of U.S. citizens that believe that the proletariat should be armed and allowed to demonstrate in such a fashion, at what point do you think, in a realistic scenario, not just like a hypothetical or yeah, we should be able to do that, do you not see that that will be interpreted as a threat of political violence and acted on with force accordingly by an administration? And I don't even just mean a federal administration, a municipal administration, a state administration, all of the above, one of them. And my point is, as soon as that happens, there's no more peaceful demonstration.
I am a
So the
reformist
BLM
first and
BLM
foremost.
protests happened, right? And they attacked state buildings, if I'm correct. And then you
There
had
was
the
some
Capitol.
vandalism,
You had
yes.
the Capitol riots where they literally walked in there. Were there any drones used there?
Right, no, but that's not
All right.
because the
That was
government
like
has no
an
policy.
FBI-assisted event.
Invalid and I have two different perspectives on this. I just want you to know that we agree on some things, but we also have different answers. So if you guys want to have your conversations, you guys can keep going ahead. But I would also have different answers to those questions that you're asking.
Or it just,
Because I think that revolutionary action. My thinking, I think that the third world is much more likely to be where armed actual revolution happens. I think in the Western U.S., I think reformism is like 99%. I just want to have the guns to show that they're there to be like, look, we're serious. I don't want to use them, and then I want them to be able to then make progressivism a lot more popular and move the country to the left and into social democracy-ish areas, and creating better social services and moving on to socialism and everything. And now, of course, hardcore Marxist-Leninists believe that the only way to transition actually into socialism is through armed revolution. I don't know if that's absolutely 100% true, but I think the ability to have weapons and to have that as a possibility, but mostly going through, reforms and through parliamentary services, then we could move on to socialism. And that's why I think it's important to have a good thing.
Do you know who Kotsky is? We already had this discussion like 110 years ago. Actually,
Yeah.
Kotsky was an opportunist, and he was already called that. Lenin already did this. Kotsky did nothing. So it's like
it's
I just
true.
wanna put that out
It's
there.
important. Yeah, these ideas have been discussed, but
For
they.
example, like lefty and fighting stuff. This is kind of irrelevant to guns, right? So if we
Yeah,
take a
why
look,
did
Yeah.
why did you have to slide your ideological dick in there? What was that about?
it's just an ML moment. So when it comes to the actual rate at which guns are used in revolutions, what we actually see is an inverse correlation between gun ownership and the actual revolutionary potential of a country, or the amount of revolutions that happen in those countries. Take a look at revolutions historically as well. You see that the vast majority of these revolutions end up providing lower qualities of life for their citizens, even relative to how they were originally. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. You take the USSR, for example, right? They raised the quality of life through industrialization. But if you take
Yeah.
a look at like the average country, it usually is the case that these revolutions just create power vacuums. Somebody else sweeps in, and it doesn't seem like gun ownership is a huge portion of why revolutions are or aren't successful.
No, it's
And not to mention,
Yeah, I just think that they don't
I
hurt.
do
That's my
have to
opinion.
leave. I do have to leave, so I really have to say this.
Go ahead.
I'll also leave the study here before I go. But basically, a lot of people seem to sadistically enjoy the idea of violently overthrowing the government so they can
Yeah.
implement the regime.
It's just
that
LARPing.
corresponds with their ideological views. But the fact is that the majority of revolutions that were successful were peaceful. Peaceful revolutions are the most effective way at obtaining change. Violent revolutions have too high of a failure rate, and revolutions that I can think of, like I know that Tanky here will probably think the Russian Revolution was a great thing, but I will cite that as an example of a failed revolution. Sorry, Tanky. The French Revolution was an even bigger disaster, and Edmund Burke believed that the only way that people could clean up the mess that the French Revolution brought was through a military dictatorship. And he was right, because Napoleon came into power years later, because the French Revolution was a fucking mess. It was a cycle of regime change. There was a lot of brutal persecution. They persecuted the church. It was just brutal, and it was
There
ultimately
are
a
no
failed
guarantees.
revolution.
Yeah.
There are no guarantees, and just to be
Okay.
clear, like again, I'm not calling for any voluntarism. I'm talking about self-defense. So just to clear that up, I'm not asking people to go out.
Yeah.
As I pointed out earlier, that's bunk, because most
Yeah.
firearm-related
Okay,
homicides
hold on
are
a second.
not
Hold
in
on.
self-defense.
So we're gonna go and close the statements on this, and then we're gonna go to the next topic. All right. So
I had
I'll
to go
start.
anyway.
All right. Thanks for coming. All right.
See you, Rob.
Invalid. Closing
Have a good
statement.
one.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, like, as far as there's no guarantee of anything, right? So you talk about, revolutions it must be peaceful or whatever. Like, yeah, it's no guarantee that if you have a revolution, or if things become so bad that the government oppresses people so bad that there's a revolution, that it'll end up great. There's obviously no guarantee of that, but there's plenty of examples of it being successful. And the country on the rise right now is China. What happened in China? They had a very bloody civil war. Yes, it sucks, right? Nobody wants that to happen, but it had to happen. And China is doing amazing right now. So there you go.
Maria.
Yeah, I disagree in that guns help with revolutions. I don't think Australia is particularly enlightened. So, like, it's a political possibility, just like with tobacco and everything. So, like, just adopt Australia's gun policies. You can argue about certain things like rifles or specific policies, but, like, in general, it's not bad, and it has better outcomes. We should always pick the solution that maximizes utility.
Ronnie.
I pass my time.
All right, Santh.
Yeah, on the topic of there being no guarantees, revolutions might not be great. Yeah, I agree. Revolutions tend to not be great, actually. What we should do is act probabilistically. We understand that revolutions are oftentimes really bad. We understand that guns are not helpful for revolutions, at least when we look at the actual data on this. The idea that sometimes it's successful. You know what? I would love to see an example of that, because China certainly isn't an example of a successful revolution. To say China is doing amazing is insane. They have constitutionally protected rights to do things like petition your government, and their social credit score does things that absolutely directly counteract that. So China is a shithole country. It's a terrible country to live in. It's an Orwellian nightmare. I would recommend going to any other country instead for any kind of example of a successful
Are we
relationship.
responding to each
A good
other
one
in
that you'd like
closing
to, a
remarks?
good one that you might want to do.
No, we're
would be the
not,
US.
unfortunately.
You can respond in the next topic.
Okay.
Okay. Smiley.
Yeah, my opinion on guns specifically are that, yeah, I think that they could be fine, but and I do agree that it's important for leftists to arm themselves, but I believe that, yeah, I think that data is the first and most important thing, harm reduction, and we should be using them basically just as a just a display rather than an actual thing. But and we should, move on through more peaceful policies.
Let's see, who is Big Mad Crab?
Wait, I went to go pee. What are we doing?
Closing statements.
Closing statements.
I think I mean again, I've been on the fence on this for my past leftist years. I think you can go both ways on this, but I don't think you can make a reasonable moral argument for guns. Like I think I think the arguments that you can make are kind of fall short. So, and we should just be like other countries and not be fucking psychos.
Blackjack.
My counter argument to this broadly is that, but we are psychos. We have deliberately enfranchised psychopathy and sociopathy into our political structure to create a more affable environment for all parties to reach a general political consensus. By virtue of that, it's going to be next to impossible on a logistic level, not a moral one, to completely obliterate arms ownership when you have something along the lines of 3D printed systems, mass distribution from foreign investment into the political system to back the existing regime of court rulings in the Supreme Court. It's not necessarily just a matter of what is morally appropriate or what other countries can or cannot do. It is a matter of what is tangible in the immediate political environment and what then becomes feasible based on those tangibilities. I don't think it's necessarily right or wrong. I think there's too many different possible contexts for me or any of us probably to go through all the potential permutations of what is or is not ethical or moral around the ownership of a firearm, be it self-defense or deliberate homicide, given the appropriate context. The point, however, though, I think that is largely being ignored here for one reason or another that is somewhat beyond me, is that you can wish and want all day, but that's not going to change the reality of like 360 odd million people on a continent that is largely embroiled in a history of bloody warfare.
Yep, Victoria.
So my big, I guess, closing argument would be that I believe that gun ownership should not be a right. I believe it should be a privilege. I think gun ownership should be equivalent to that of owning a car. You should have to take a written test. You should have to take a physical test. You should have to renew your license every so many years. And that there should be definitely a huge reform into what types of guns are able to be owned by like civilian and regular everyday humans. So that's my big, oh no, thought idea of what gun ownership should look like in the future. I feel like that's a lot more realistic than just get rid of handguns, get rid of all the guns, get rid of, it's easier to reform a system than it is to just completely shut it down. So I feel like that would be the best step in the right direction.
Yep. All right, this is our next topic. The past few years, we've really seen the Republican Party harp on Marxist theory, that CRT is inherently Marxist, that things like this are directly harmful, that schools are teaching our children. So the question here really is this Marxist theory rhetoric, or is it true? Is it really harmful to America? Could it really lead to some kind of communist, revolution? Or is it just the Republicans blowing smoke out of their ass? What do you think?
Is it open floor?
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, CRT is Marxist dork shit. It's complete nerd shit. You should not waste your time on it.
Yeah,
go
I
to
thought we
other
had
important
this
things.
discussion.
But it's also just a complete bullshit boogeyman talking point from the right. Who cares? Like CRT.
Literally only like.
Didn't we talk about this last week?
39-year-old moms who watch Fox News only care about that. That's the only
Not
people.
even talked about in my country. Like, this is just a complete artificial manifestation.
This is only Midwestern, not even in New Jersey. Like only in like Midwestern states they talk about that.
Yeah,
Like on the East Coast, they don't give a fuck about CRT. It's like only in like Virginia and like fucking.
Yeah, it's wine mom shit. It's anti-vax wine mom shit.
yeah, it's just ignorant people who don't. Yeah, it's just it means nothing. It's just a dog whistle.
What's wrong with wine mums?
Wine is bad for you.
Wait,
Yeah.
I love my mom.
red wine's actually-
There's good and bad wine moms. There's good there can be good wine moms, but the wine moms they mean are the ones that just like to
Water's bad for you,
talk
I'm
shit about
drinking it.
people
True.
and just talk, you know,
What you're
drama.
over here is not wine mom, but
It seems like there's
alcoholic.
general consensus on this topic, so I don't know if we should like.
Invalid.
What was
So we agree.
Yeah, I think we should.
hold on. What was the question one more time?
Hold on. There's a few people who haven't answered. Invalid.
Yeah, I mean it's based on there's some Marxist and parts of it. For instance, W.E.B. Du Bois contributed to it. So I mean they're kind of correct that there's some Marxist parts of it, but otherwise it really has nothing to do with Marxism, and it's simply an analysis of like the legal structures of the United States, and there's like some common sense things in there that are obviously true, and then there are like deeper theories about what it means that are obviously kind of silly. So I mean, I don't think it's that interesting, honestly. I think the Republicans, whatever, they'll use whatever they can in a culture war scenario. That's what they'll do, and the Democrats will do the same thing. So
Well, since everyone agreed on this, I guess
Yeah.
I'll just be.
I was gonna.
I want to address one thing super fast. So, despite the fact that I agree with the general sentiment of what Invalid's saying, the idea that it has nothing to do with the Marxism is just kind of like not true. Critical race theory is derived from critical theory. Critical theory is a product of the Frankfurt School, and obviously this critical theory's roots are in sort of Marxist critiques of Kant and Hegel.
I didn't say it had nothing to do with it. I said some Marxist thinkers contributed to it, including W.E.B. Du Bois. That's literally what I said. So
You said you then went on to say it has nothing to do with Marx.
I think that at the end of the day,
I think
it
we're being a
really
little
doesn't have anything
pedantic
to do
here.
with the
I don't think
core-
he meant it like
Yeah. When you talk about the core contributions to
Well,
like,
for the
our,
record, you did
our
say
way of thinking, it's like
It's on
historical
video.
materialism. Do we really care about like CRT specifically?
I have a question. Do we want to maybe change the topic to like the crazy idea of like colleges being Marxist breeding grounds in general? Because I think that that's a little bit obviously hyperbolic. However,
Since this was seeming like there's about to be turned into a debate, I'll just be nice here. Here's an interesting debate. Is China bad? Go.
this is a good one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would like to hear this.
It's not bad.
It's as bad as basically other countries
I
that are similar.
yeah, I think China if they open
Countries are nothing compared to as good as the U.S.
I think if China like actually like updated their Marxism and their like leftism and like their communism into the 21st century, they could probably dominate if they weren't so focused on doing the way they do it.
There's one critique I have of China is not going to be like the fact that their leftism isn't updated. They're revisionist as fuck.
Yeah, but I mean as in update it back to what it actually is. Like yeah, like go back to
Hold on.
education.
Please.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like you guys think China is some weird, fucked up, dystopian, like Black Mirror-esque
Yeah.
area of
Yeah.
like.
It's
like,
bad, but it's not as bad as
realistically speaking,
we're
yes,
pretty.
It's not awful. It's not great,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like.
It's probably better than
fucking the
here.
worst place
North
in the
Korea
world.
actually isn't as bad as I thought it was either.
Do you think not being able to petition your government is a good thing?
Their censorship laws are pretty bad though.
I mean, I'm
You
talking
think
about
this?
social
You
credit
think
to
you
go
think
down
it-
if you
you
petition
you
the
could
government
petition your
directly.
government here?
What's
Yeah.
the scale for
Yeah.
comparison
Okay.
that we're judging this on in all seriousness?
I
Because
love how you're. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think Cynthia actually said that go to any country other than China. Can you maybe I missed the word?
very
but
much
if I-
not recommend Afghanistan at this particular
Yeah,
time.
also like Burundi or the Congo. I know people there, and like you know, China's. It's not. If there's 200 countries, China's number 200.
Holy shit!
Wait,
you-
if your comparison is the Congo, that's not like.
yeah, I mean.
But that is, she said anywhere.
Even
They said
Invalid-
anywhere.
So hold on.
I would
Even
also
Invalid doesn't like
say
China's
that
policies. Hold on. I love to respond to the argument, please. So even Invalid doesn't like China's policies. Invalid thinks the proletariat should be armed. It's very funny. In China, they have the most. They have the
They're
most.
post-revolution.
in the
It
world.
doesn't apply. Post-revolution, it doesn't apply.
You think it's post-revolution in China?
Yes, it is.
You
It's
really
just
you
a
think with their
fact.
billionaire class, they're post-revolution, which is socialism?
Hold on. So one thing at a time. So Mao's whole thing. You ever familiar with that? You know Chiang Kai-shek. You know about the Japanese getting kicked out? That was a revolution. It happened.
That was the
It's
revolution.
just
Okay.
You think that like, you think
So-
they are?
so
You
any
think they have
revolution will
entered
do?
You think they've entered the fucking dictatorship of the proletariat at this point?
Yes.
Then why is it so
You-
hard to get into the
China is
party? Why?
Extremely wealthy population, right? There's extremely wealthy, small percentage of the population, incredibly high
There
inequality.
can still be
The
wealthy
proletariat
people,
state.
and there's having wealthy people is not incompatible with socialism.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
I didn't
compared
say
to
it was
the amount of
incompatible. I said this incredibly high rate of inequality and the fact
Yeah.
that private ownership
a
still exists.
socialist
is
country should be based on its
So-
lowest
a
people.
dictatorship of the
Hold on. Can I
proletariat is not
respond to one
socialism
thing at a
according to Marxist lens.
if we can respond to one thing at a time. So you talked about there were rich people. I already responded to that. You said people have. Did you say people have private property? There's not really private property. The government owns
Yeah, it's
everything.
it's
So,
state
like,
capitalism.
land- the government owns all the land.
Can you define
Okay,
private
so
property for us?
that's kind of the main thing. I can't remember what you said after that.
Sure. So once again, I didn't say they're not socialist because they have rich people. I said this incredibly high rate of economic inequality would make them not
Oh,
the
okay. I
dictatorship
can
of the
respond to that.
proletariat, which once again, hold on, is not socialism. Those are different
Mhm.
things. You know this as a Marxist.
So hold on, one thing at a time. So going back to the inequality thing,
That was
they're working on it. There definitely is inequality there, but the fact is they had to accelerate their growth very quickly to catch up to the West. It left some problems. I mean, that's a fact, right? But but the important thing is that they're working on it. They have social ends, whereas if you look at the West, if you look at capitalism, it's private ends. It's a particular person looking to improve their own standing in society, whereas in China, there's a more of a 10,000-foot view of guiding the country, improving everyone's lives.
Okay, so
The
when we
focus
say
of
private
interest.
property, would you agree that an example of private property would be property that's used for profit?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, what is your definition of private property?
Private property would be what is used, so land, first of all. Second of all, the major manufacturing and the major products of a country, how they're made, like all of the things that go into that would be more in line of what I think of as private.
What's the difference
Owning a
between
house-
private and
owning-
personal
like,
property?
Having a house, having a car is not.
No,
Private
I'm saying, yeah, those are both examples of things that you're not using to obtain profit, right? So in the case of a house you rented, that would be private property, wouldn't it? According to Marx, at least.
Wait, why would
Maybe
he
it
make
depends.
money?
Honestly, I'm not fully up on rentierism. I haven't read like Capital Volume 3. I think where it's addressed.
Basically, the party owns the
Article
country.
39 of the-
That's
Yes,
how
so
China
according to
works.
Article 39 of the property law of the People's Republic of China, you absolutely can, as an individual, own something and obtain profit from that property. This is under a Marxist understanding of what private property is. This would mean that China does have private property. This would mean they are absolutely not socialist, not even the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Yeah, they
So first
go
of
by
all,
with Chinese characteristics.
Marxism is not just Marx. So you have Marx, you have Engels, you have Leninism, and you have Mao in the case of China. Okay, and then you have really Deng needs to be included in there. The Dengist reforms, right? So I don't look at it as like I'm not a I'm open to what you would call new building on Marx. Okay, so I'm not really too worried about like particular views of private property as they were defined by Marx all the way back in the 1900s and the 1800s. So
I'm confused how this isn't revisionism.
what is your definition of revisionism? Could mean anything. So how do you define it?
Who are you asking?
Whoever said something about
Warona, I
It
think.
really feels like you're just coming up with a
Taking the
convenient
orthodox,
narrative.
yeah,
Mhm.
taking the orthodox ideas of somebody like Marx and then revising those ideas.
Yeah,
and
adding
turning
on to
these
them.
into sort of like the ideology you practice. This would be revisionism.
Marx only wrote a certain amount. I mean, you can't expect one guy to write a certain amount of books and think that you're going to build everything off of that.
Yeah,
I
and-
agree. The issue is you're ignoring the things that he did write. Of that small section of things that Marx did write, you are throwing out some parts of this and calling yourself a Marxist. But fundamental aspects of Marxist theory you disagree with.
That's because fundamentally what I care about is whether they're social ends or if it's the ends of something like capitalism where it's private, right?
Well, it seems like
It's
most of the ends
so
in China end up being private.
How so? Go ahead and explain that.
I mean, it's basically the whole country is it's like state capitalism. They own and like make sure to control everything. They decide like if they were really supposed to be socialist, they would have let a lot of people into the party, and they would allow for people to have their voices heard and work together and have councils of actual people making the decisions, not just the person on top.
An example of this, would you say is Nazi Germany?
An example of what? State capitalism?
Yeah.
No, because that was more they just sort of mixed together. That's just another form of fascism. I would describe China as close to fascism, though, particularly because of their racial and ethnic, issues.
Invalid. Would you say that Nazi Germany had social ends?
No.
Can you explain?
It was a capitalist-driven economy. It was driven to have certain people profit.
With the Evergrande fiasco that's going on right now in China, because that's pretty fucking capitalist-driven.
Somewhat familiar with it, but the thing about Evergrande is that the government will determine whether it gets bailed out or not. So there's a big difference between that.
Not getting bailed out. They've already been trying to refinance. They ordered the CEO to have to pay out a portion of his own money, more or less as a penance, but it's still going to be a drop in the fucking bucket next to $300 billion.
Yeah, I mean they're essentially planning their economy. So if they decide that they're going to refinance, great. Like I'm not going to question them on that. I don't know enough about.
The company they're having to. They're going to default. It almost fucking caused another 2008 style cascade of mortgage crises throughout the globe because of the way this was leveraged.
Well, first of all, I don't think China's too worried about are you talking about 2008 or are you talking about Evergrande?
They're really worried about that. That's one of the reasons they're acting so carefully around it in a regulatory fashion as it is, because they're an export-centric economy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what's the question? I don't even know what your question is.
My question is you're seeming to avoid any fact that seems to be inconvenient to your narrative, and it seems very disingenuous relative to the point you're trying to present.
What's the point you're making though? I'm not understanding.
What are you talking?
You're saying because Evergrande exists and it's failing.
No, I'm talking about in a state that centralizes its planning around, as you saying China does. They have an intensely capitalistic system that is simply state controlled, and that's really the primary difference.
Here's the problem: is that you think of capitalist as anything that, again, profit, like you were saying. Profit is not necessarily tied to capitalism.
It's about generating capital.
Hold on, the issue.
Well, I'm actually brought up the Evergrande thing specifically because of the nature of how it sources real estate investment, controls it, and handles the mortgages.
Yeah,
and land, which he just explicitly described as private property.
Your argument was a matter of social ends, right? So if this is the point, if the reason that Nazi Germany doesn't have social ends is because of the fact there's this ruling class who is able to get very rich and is able to do things for these sole purposes.
Not that they get rich. Sorry, not to interrupt you.
Power. Take power over wealth. It doesn't matter. It's the same.
Yes, it's the ability to have the power and to control over the government. There's no capitalist class in China. There are rich people, but they don't control the government.
Well,
there's like Jack Ma. There's people like that are rich. They don't control the government.
And the government will disappear them if they don't listen to the government too. Yeah.
And
that's you can just throw out stuff like that. I can say the United States government disappears.
I absolutely do agree with you. I hate the United States government too. I
don't know what does it say about anything, I guess.
Sure. So back on the topic, right? So when it comes to specifically the idea of, say, for example, the social ends, right? You're saying that China doesn't have a capitalist class, and the reasons you give for this is the fact that they don't have exclusive control over the government. Well, Germany's Nazi party had control over the government. They weren't controlled by the shadowy capitalist class. They controlled capitalists.
Who funded the Nazi party? Where did they get their funding from?
So just because there was funding doesn't mean that those capitalists have control over the Nazi party, right? Obviously, they were an authoritarian state. Hitler obviously had way more control than any capitalist did.
What was the end goal of the Nazis, as far as economically?
Well, their end goal wasn't an economic one. Their end goal was a social one. It was a matter of killing off the Jewish people. The complete eradication of the Jewish people was what they listed in Mein Kampf. Hitler said he wanted to hang every Jew until they stink.
That's bullshit. It's completely economic.
I think you know that there was a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and in fairness, I'm going to have to agree with them. That was not the sole goal of the regime. It definitely was part of it, but it wasn't the sole goal.
Oh, as a matter of fact, in Mein Kampf, Hitler almost hyper-fixates on the idea that Jewish people are the primary reason for Germany's current position.
But the
used as a political
scapegoat,
by the failings of the previous government. I'm not saying that you're wrong and that they wanted to exterminate them, but the reasons why are actually very historically relevant.
I can
Yeah.
agree that they're historically relevant, but we are talking about what was Nazi Germany's primary goal, and what they
Right,
did
and I'm saying
Was
that
to make Germany better,
excuse me,
not
really
to.
fast.
Yeah,
Even in the
see, that's
case
what I'm
in which
saying.
Nazi,
You're-
excuse me, in the
Sorry, go
case
ahead.
where Nazi Germany was, okay, so even in the case where Nazi Germany was at the brink of losing the war, and like the only thing that they could do left to even begin to have a hope at winning the war or mitigating the economic disasters that might befall them was like pulling back on the Holocaust. Instead, they went full throttle with making sure to kill as many Jews as possible.
Right.
This was
Fascism.
the one-
Okay, but I'm not saying that didn't happen, to be abundantly clear. What I'm saying is that wasn't the sole goal of the regime. They got to power in the first place, not on simply, hey, we all hate the Jews together. It's that
clarify?
they... Okay.
I mean, you talk about
position
Lebensraum,
is on
you
a
talk
fixed goal
about
is
the
primary
invasions that
goal.
they did. Their goal was to recover their economy. That was their
Yeah,
main
like
goal.
broadly, that's
Mhm.
why they were taken into power so easily.
And
Yeah.
their main goal in the Nazi Party was to recover the economy of Germany. You're saying?
No, well...
Well, that's what happens. The economy crumbles, and you either go towards fascism or socialism, and they went towards fascism. Mhm.
Was that true, Invalid? Was that your position? That you
That's
think
their
Nazi-
main material goal, and yes, they used obviously Jewish people as scapegoats,
Can you define a
including
social
other
end?
types of people, and all kinds of people that they considered to
Can you
be
define a social end?
different.
When you said
Can
there
I
was
find a social end in that?
can you
No,
define
because
it?
the
Can you
people that
define
were
it?
going
Define.
I'm asking you to define it.
define social end. So it's basically when you talk about something that's a social end, it means that when the government makes choices, it's to help the masses of people. It's not to help particular classes of people, right?
So it's to help the population of the country overall. That would
I
be
mean,
a social
that-
end.
That would be
Well,
social
you
ends,
could
yeah.
say that,
Explicitly
but-
not based on class. Explicitly
Okay.
not based on class.
In which you said you said that the goal of Nazi Germany was to repair their economy overall.
Yes, but who was going to benefit when that economy was repaired?
on.
Do you think all
That
of
would
the
be
little
it.
people would?
Wait. The society overall would benefit. That would be a social end. That means you think Nazi Germany is socialist.
I don't...
So no. So the difference
I don't
is
think that's
again.
the argument that was made, nor the historical point.
Say that
The
again.
point is, if you're willing to say that Nazi Germany is not socialist, you should apply that to China as well.
I don't. How do you
No, I
make that?
shouldn't.
How do you make that distinction?
They're not
I really
quite
want to know.
I think what Synth is saying is that because they're both going for social
It
ends,
doesn't
but I
matter,
guess you
Smiley,
could
they're
say
not the
that.
same. They just have to be same enough.
I mean, you're using vague, non-specific, and just broadly nebulous definitions to try and make comparative
No, I
assessments in
didn't.
some
I
sort of
used the
empirical
I used
way.
the definition
This is
that
a
invalid
narrative.
gave.
No, I mean, point
I
is,
didn't
even if he
use my
believes
method.
everything you just said, that doesn't mean it's
No,
accurate.
he doesn't believe those. That's the issue. There's a
Okay, my
contradiction
point
in
is,
belief.
I'm saying
He should believe
hypothetically,
those,
if
he
he
doesn't.
did, you're right. He doesn't. I
Hypothetically, if he
understand.
did, he'd have a consistent position, but he doesn't believe those, so he doesn't
Look,
have a consistent position.
All I'm gonna say is when we talk about rebuilding Germany's economy under the Nazis, they were not rebuilding it for people in like the proletariat class. They were rebuilding it for the people in the bourgeois class, specifically the ones that friggin' would have been funding them and running the war machine, right? Now there might have been incidental like benefits for workers, like there were more jobs. So yeah, there were incidental benefits, but that wasn't their goal. Their goal was
I
to
do
benefit.
And I think this is a good description
On
of
the Nazi
China
Germany
too.
comparison.
No, it's not
because
they're not doing things to benefit the rich.
They're
explicitly.
doing
They're
it to
doing
benefit the
people.
party. They're not actually doing it.
Absolutely
They're
not.
only
My
doing it
entire
to
point.
yeah.
That's exactly why I brought up Nazi Germany.
They're
The same
doing
arguments he's making for China could apply to Nazi Germany as well.
I just
Doesn't apply
explained
to
how they don't apply.
The issue is your explanation shows that you're not telling the truth, right? So your explanations are things like China doesn't benefit the bourgeoisie in their country, right? They don't have.
There
they
is
don't
no
benefit the richest
bourgeois in
members.
China.
You say this, right?
Whoa,
but the
dude,
reasons
come on.
why are circular.
Their middle class is larger than the entire population of the United States.
There are rich people, but there are no bourgeois is very specific. It's people in a particular class relationship, right?
Well,
so the
those-
bourgeois exist when they oppress the proletariat.
So what
Rich
about those
people
upper in the
general
party?
Are not
You're
bourgeois.
saying
No,
that the
hold on,
minority
hold on. Let me
representation of
oppress
wealth
the-
is skewed towards that number doesn't then oppress the wage workers that are then feeding the emergent state
hold on,
consumer-made
hold on.
society
No,
in China.
while it may not be
Invalid.
morally good,
Without
it's
using your-
not a class relationship the same way it is for capitalism.
You just said that they were oppressed. That the point was oppressing invalid, right? Like so that is a moral statement.
No, it's actually a material statement.
And no,
it's
it's
a
not.
material statement. There's a material relationship
oppression is
between the
not
bourgeois
material.
and the proletariat.
So hold on, oppression is absolutely a moral statement.
I disagree because it's basically it's if you get into the simplest way of looking at it, it's the one person has to benefit and the other person has to lose. It's material at that
exploitation,
point.
not oppression.
Isn't oppression literally defined as like?
Yeah, you're thinking of
unjust?
exploitation.
Yeah, exploitation
Okay,
is
I'm
what you
just
mean
using
then.
the
Yeah,
word.
there we go.
Yes.
Sure. Sure. So using exploitation here, then, right? If you're saying it's one person is gaining while another person is losing,
That's a very
I
dumbed down version I was using. So don't
Sure.
hold
Give me
to
the
it.
non-dumbed down version.
Okay, so then you
That's
just
the best thing I got right now.
okay. I have a question for you then, man. It's like so, by whatever your version of oppression or anything of that like is, so you're saying that then there's not a wage-based class in certain regions of China, say Xinjiang province, for instance, that are being used or in some way socially abused towards the ends of a higher class of society in China. You don't think that's a thing?
No, I don't.
Well, you need to read. Seriously.
Yeah.
Specifically,
That's what the,
Google-
the
I
Chinese
disagree on the
characteristics
analysis.
are
I
of.
No, I
disagree
mean,
that
I don't understand how you're disagreeing when literally like several million people are being disenfranchised into positions of like material labor for a fixed low-income supply cost relative to the like metastable median in the economy, specifically to fuel the larger industrial exports of a maritime power. Like I don't understand how you're
They're-
getting
yeah.
this idea in your head.
So that's
where
not a class
that's-
relationship. What you're talking about is
Really?
like class in more of the. You're talking about it in the more of a general term of like a group of people who share some commonalities, but it's not a class in the same idea as like
That
capitalism.
seems extremely convenient for your argument.
It's yeah. It
Yeah,
sounds
I
a
mean,
little
it-
bit
it-
semantic.
like,
Let's
it's
let's
about
make it
the-
pragmatic.
So the way he defines class is he's using basically the a Marxist idea of exploitation. So there's a class where you have like this one group of people who's exploiting another group. For Marx, what this meant was like your surplus value is being like extracted by this capitalist class. This would apply to China because in their own law it does say that you are allowed to do things for profit. That would necessarily imply, so long as you're employing other people, that you are exploiting those people in a Marxist sense of the word.
No, because the government controls how profit is accumulated. So they're
wouldn't
making
matter.
the rules.
Whether the
about how
government
this
is
happens.
taking a cut or not
The
doesn't
point is
change the
that-
fact that those people are still being exploited, and then the
The point
owners of
is
the
intent.
corporation.
The difference is intent.
I
They are
think the
intent-
result.
the
I
intent of
asked
these
any
people
Yeah.
politician
profit.
in Australia, they would say that, we're regulating private industry and they would say it's for a social end, even though they might have other reasons that they're doing this.
Mhm.
They're being bribed or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't see the difference. Like,
It's not enough to just say that you have an. We understand capitalism already. Like we understand why capitalism works the way that it does. So as a capitalist in the West, you can't, or as a government in the West that's a capitalist government, you can't just say, oh, we have social ends. We already know that's not true. The fundamental basis of capitalism is not to have social ends, right? So
There's
I
no
mean, it's
circular
to
argument.
some extent we are I am giving like the benefit of the doubt to the Chinese government. They may one day prove me wrong, and it ends up that this was actually a big capitalist plot all along, right? So I mean, I'm not gonna predict the future. It's not like they've reached communism. They're very early in. Even Xi admits this, that they're very early in the transition towards. They call themselves socialists right now, but
With Chinese
anyway,
characteristics.
So what I'm saying is, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. That's true, but capitalism, you can't give the benefit of the doubt. That's the difference.
The issue is you're just begging the question. Then you're saying you're
Yeah.
giving them the benefit of the doubt, which is why they aren't capitalists.
Because
and
they
if it
say
were-
they're
if
not
they were
capitalists,
you
yeah.
couldn't give them the benefit of the doubt. It's just one big circle. It's not actually a deductive logical argument. It's just begging the question.
Sorry, I missed part of that.
They
Sure. I said that your argument is circular. It's begging the question. You're basically starting with the idea that they aren't capitalists, and then you're using that to prove that they aren't capitalists. For none of us here will we ever make that distinction, because none of the empirical facts you can point to about China versus any other country you would call capitalist would actually show that they aren't capitalists.
No. it's
Would
not
you
true,
agree
because
that
you already-
capitalism
look,
can
you
happen
already
within
admit-
China? Would you agree that certain capitalist things could happen within China invalid, even if the whole country
I mean,
isn't
it's-
saying?
When they did the Dengist reforms, they obviously brought in like
Mhm.
foreign capital and stuff. So there was obviously some parts that were like what you might call a mixed type
Yeah.
deal. The point is that the party controls something like the most obvious example is that the party controls land distribution, right? It's
Mhm.
the biggest thing. Land is a finite resource, and it's obviously one of the biggest profit centers in the West. The party controls it, and you have something like land reform. You have the ability of people to go back to the countryside and actually have a plot of land.
Mhm.
That you can't say that in the West. So you can't just say.
But the
like,
thing
oh,
is,
West
they
should say
also
the same
use
thing.
that
Hold on.
power
hold
to.
on,
im-
hold on. I'm I'm saying that there are fundamental differences that this is why I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Not just because I feel like it, because they have implemented things that lead me to believe that yes, they are socialists, they're on the path to
think
further
that Georgism is
socialism and
socialist?
communism.
Do you think that Georgism would be an example of socialism?
Sorry, where?
Georgism.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with it.
Sure. Georgism is generally considered part of like a liberal philosophy in which basically land is instead of being owned or privately owned, you completely remove the private ownership of land, like entirely.
Yeah,
Would
it's
this
like
be an example
taxed.
of like a socialist policy for you?
I mean, so you can't take one policy like that and pull it out and say like, is this a socialist policy? I mean, as you know, you've already read Marx.
You just did that.
There's a fundamental like basis to socialism, where you talk about the proletariat overthrowing the bourgeois and eventually being on the path to a classless society. So you can't just say, well, if we just had this one particular policy of land reform, that would be it. Now I see what you're saying. You're saying, well, like, what if they're only doing that? And that means that they're capitalists, but they're doing Georgism or whatever. I mean, I just think that there's more to it. I think I trust them based on what they've been working on, that it's moving towards higher stages of socialism.
Do you agree that there was a period in time, right, not too long ago, in which Hong Kong would be capitalist?
Yeah.
Okay. And during this period of time in which Hong Kong was capitalist, when they were still like an administrative region of China, there was land reform practiced there, right? Really, really awful land reform, but land reform. Incredibly strict government regulation on land.
You probably know more about it than I do. I'm not an expert on Hong Kong by any means.
Okay, what I'm saying is this policy, if we can apply it to China overall, specifically Hong Kong, which you agree is capitalist, right, is absolutely under the capitalist mode of production, would definitely, without a doubt, still be capitalist. But the same kind of standard you're applying, you don't apply that same thing to China, right?
Like I said, there's more to it than just land reform. That was one example I gave. So,
Okay, I'm saying
Well, you use the term land as a
Let me ask the
private
question a different
property.
way. What are the necessary conditions to make it socialist?
I do think it is a necessary condition, yeah.
But what are the rest?
What are the necessary conditions? What is the set of necessary conditions for socialism?
You have to be on the path towards all of the major manufacturing being controlled by the government, which I think China is well on their way to doing. What was it, their policy is take hold of the big fish, let the little fish go?
On the path to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
didn't
think
you
they're
say
there
they
yet.
already own most of it?
Hold
Because yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that line, actually. So,
Like, I'm not
as a
a
Marxist-
China expert. I'm in the West. I'm not in China and I can't read Mandarin, so.
sure, so you as a
Can I
Marxist...
ask a very, very just random off the wall question?
Hey, go ahead.
How the fuck did we get from CRT to here?
We
Alexa
changed.
just brought up China, remember?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no agreed on
The topic changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, I
so
must
It was
have
such a
I
bad
think
topic.
so.
we had to
I think the
just
biggest
be
thing, the biggest thing I would say about this topic is that like, I don't think I would argue that like China's perfect or anything like that. I would say they're on the path to socialism. The West isn't. So
Wait, I
that's,
thought you said
that's
they
why
were
I like
socialist.
China.
So
What?
did you mean the path to communism?
You're on the path to
So,
socialism.
just for
You
my
said-
own sake, the basic topic is China is bad? Question mark.
Yeah, it's our opinions
Oh
on
my
China
fucking
and whether or not
God.
it's socialist.
Alright.
This is the dumbest shit.
Then leave.
I want to run on the line, please.
I
Please.
feel like invalid arg. You just kind of slipped up because you said on the path to socialism, and
Mhm.
previously you explicitly said that China was socialist.
Yep.
Sorry, I misspeak because Marx and Engels considered them interchangeable. Lenin made the distinction. So yes.
So you mean they're on the path to communism, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
Why isn't Australia on the path? Because
Why
you
do
can
you-
argue that the material
It's like
conditions.
the
that
communism.
I was
capitalism
actually
will
about to make
never
the same
fail.
argument already.
Has Australia had a revolution
No,
of the
but you can argue
proletariat
that
specifically?
The policies in Australia, free healthcare, unions, stuff like that. These are policies that China doesn't have. So why isn't Australia more socialist than China?
You're talking about like bourgeois reformism. I don't see how it's relevant, honestly.
So the issue
These-
is invalid. Once again, you're doing the circular argument thing. You're once again saying this is just bourgeois reformism. This is true socialism. And the example you give of why it's true socialism was this has this policy which moves you closer towards the path to full government ownership, right? And that's what socialism is. And then in the other
Who
case,
Well,
controls
here-
the government?
I think it all
Listen,
goes
in
back
this other
to
case,
his intent question. He said
Australia is
intent
absolutely moving
matters.
towards full government ownership, In fact, you agree with this. You're a Marxist. You think the material conditions will move them towards it necessarily. So then you agree they on the path to full government ownership. Every country would be.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So socialism exists today. I agree with that. Like in the sense that like eventually, yes. So we're already have the makings of it today for it to.
Does it make China better because
wait,
they
wait,
say that their
wait,
stated
hold on.
goal is
So-
communism?
That's the question I asked earlier, but I'm gonna ask
I feel
you
like
again.
his definition of socialism is just too
Wait,
broad.
wait, wait. You
Wait,
just said socialism
really quick, I wanna
exists
ask one
today.
question, then I'll throw it over to you,
Tell
Victoria.
Can you tell me
All
what
that means is that's more of a rhetorical
has
point.
just
All it,
purely socialism as their whole basis of
Before we move there, I want to
policy?
ask. Before there, I want to ask one question I asked earlier.
Bolivia?
This time I think you'll give me a different answer, and I think you understand why I'm valid. So, was Nazi Germany socialist?
no, it wasn't.
So, was Nazi Germany, because of material conditions, do you think that every single country, including Nazi Germany, will eventually, including Germany, will eventually have full government ownership of the means of production?
It should. I mean, that's the theory, right?
And that's your definition of socialism?
No, it's not my definition of socialism. It's just considered a inevitability.
When I asked you to define socialism, you said socialism is when you're on the path to full government ownership.
It's a
Exactly.
it's a very
Look-
sophist point. What is the point of even getting into that?
Do you
Really?
believe that
Point is,
full
your
communism
definition of
is
socialism,
inevitable?
When talking
Yeah.
about China is so inclusive,
We're trying to
Yeah.
we're trying to
your
understand
definition
the
of socialism when
today.
talking about China is so inclusive, it includes every single country on the planet,
Mhm.
including Nazi Germany. That's
Yeah.
a ridiculous position, of course.
Okay.
No,
all right,
it's
hold
not.
On,
I
hold on,
never said that.
Hold on. Hey, hold on. All right. On the stop for a bit. I think it's time to get on to the next one. I'm not going to do closing statements on this one because I do want to wrap this panel up by at least one. So we're going to move on to the next topic.
Sounds
Does that
good.
sound good, to everyone?
Fair enough.
Alrighty.
Something that I can put input into, okay? I don't
Right,
have enough
right, right.
knowledge on
All
fucking
right.
China in order to put
Right.
input.
I'm
One of the big
thumbs
talking
up.
points because
Please make it stop.
we're getting closer and closer to the midterms. Do we think the midterms look pretty bad for the Democrats? It seems like by most studies, it seems like both the House and the Senate will go red. And if so, this will be a two-part question. And if so, will the Republican Party actively try to impeach Joe Biden? And do they have any grounds to actually do so? Open the floor.
I'm interested to hear what some people say.
I honestly do
yes,
not
yes,
think that,
no.
that the Republicans have enough to impeach Biden.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna-
definitely. I don't think they could. They'll probably try. I mean, they
Also,
already
what does
have. If you
impeachment
count
mean
Marjorie
anyway?
Taylor Greene.
This is going to be yet another topic
You
where I
could-
think we all agree.
Trump got
Yeah.
impeached twice and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Impeachment doesn't mean anything.
I think if the right might go good, and then shit's gonna get a little worse, and then it'll swing back, and hopefully we can get more progressives in.
We're gonna swing back and forth for
Yeah.
the rest of eternity. We're gonna
Yeah,
go
and-
red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue.
Until you guys change your voting system, like
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
Or we could just
most
get
other
more
countries
parties.
Don't do that way.
We could just have more than two.
Yeah, we have to do that. We have what we have to do is we have to just make the Republicans essentially invalid. And we can, but the problem is we only have two
No, we
parties.
don't
We
have
have the
Why would okay? Hold on. Why would you want to make the Republicans invalid?
Because
At
I
this
wa- the
point, that
Democrats
you're
need
just
to be the
saying,
right.
"Let the
Already
whole party
invalid.
just rule all of America with that statement.
They're already completely invalid.
I mean
They-
like
none of
irrelevant.
the
I meant
House,
the word.
None of the,
Yeah.
None of the.
And then we
I
need to
don't know
make
what
so
you
that
mean
the
by invalid.
I meant irrelevant. I'm sorry. I mean like we need to just like I mean I agree with you. We need to reform our voting system. We need to make it so that the Democrats are the ones on the right, and then we have like progressives that are actually moving forward and like continue to move that way.
What makes
Is
you think
anybody not
Democrat
in
is
agreement
like
with
left?
that?
I said that's why I said Democrats they're the right. Yeah.
Okay, so someone just sent me a question. I have no idea if this will work out, but someone just sent this to me, so we're gonna try this one. Okay. So it seems like through history that both parties want to claim JFK as either conservative or progressive. In today's standards, is JFK on the left side of history or the right side of history?
Oh, you did do the
By today's standard.
do the
Stop with the history questions, God damn it!
yeah.
I am not good at
Wait,
making topics.
So wait, so if I think Oliver Stone and who wrote the Devil's Chessboard.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
history questions.
I feel
It's a
he
it's
did
a
the
Devil's
civil rights
Chessboard. It's a
forum,
popular
didn't he?
CIA
But
book about
Mhm.
JFK.
can you summarize it a little bit?
David something makes a couple good insights. I mean, in terms of foreign policy, JFK was very left. He was very very adamant anti-war speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So
Maybe remembering, I thought
he
JFK invaded Cuba, no? So he wasn't.
There
like-
was the Cuba
I mean,
thing.
economically and sure, no, he didn't invade Cuba.
Am I
The
wrong?
CIA, that was entirely a CIA plot.
But it was while he was president.
Yes. Well, I mean,
He could have stopped it.
no,
Wait, just to be
no,
clear,
he
he
couldn't.
approved the
It
invasion,
happened.
right?
It happened completely under his
Oh,
watch.
so is that like being like? Is that common knowledge? Like really? I have honestly
So
no
yeah,
idea.
that yeah, I didn't even know that.
So in the Devil's Chessboard, it's not like he was like completely unaware of it. It was just like they shamed him. They like basically publicly shamed him into like different decisions, into making like overall he didn't approve the. I gotta look back and look back up. But
So
Yeah,
my
I mean-
understanding is
Assume the
he
president would
literally
have to
approved of
sign
the
something.
final invasion.
Yeah, JFK
Well, but
JFK
that
campaigned
that
on
wasn't like
ramping
a-
up the Cold War. So I mean, he was kind of a mixed bag where originally
Mhm.
he did whatever he had to get elected, and he kind of said whatever. Then he got elected, and then he had some problems with the CIA, and he kind of changed his mind on some things. Supposedly, there's even mixed messages on that. As far I don't remember what the original question really was, but like
Well, it was.
JFK was pretty back and forth with the
Mhm.
CIA head director. I'm losing names here.
As it turns out,
Dulles.
JFK never died.
Alan
and
Dulles.
was actually a QAnon.
Alan Dulles.
Yeah.
All right. What we're gonna do, because it seems like it just keeps kind of going back to history, and some people like I don't have time to kind of dive into history. I really should.
Mhm.
But let's kind of work on more recent topics. I would say like things that are hitting people the most, that are creating like divide and between people, would be like white privilege, CRT, Black Lives Matter, things on that aspect.
I do think you see a lot of right wingers try to meme JFK into their way of like trying to like display like freedom or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like a huge like. But I do see it from time to time. Like I see a little right wing memer. But-
I think by today he would be pretty bog standard, like Democrat, in terms of, because he's basically.
Somebody else steaming something. I know where this one goes. Is veganism
It
ethical?
would be a better.
And should you be a vegan? Period. Go.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a vegan.
Mhm.
Who's not
Yeah.
vegan?
I'm not vegan, but I do agree that it's
You
the
know
right
I'm
way to
not
go.
Vegan.
Yeah.
So
If
here's
you
Yeah.
live in the
I'm
United
not
States,
vegan.
you're killing yourself.
Here's the
Live in
thing.
the
Arguments
US,
Even if you
you're
don't want to go
100%
vegan,
killing
you should
yourself.
probably cut on red meat.
Yeah. So here's the thing: the arguments against veganism are going to be niche positions that like nobody here who's not a vegan, with maybe the exception of me and Warna, is going to hold on to. So just for the sake of it, yeah, you should absolutely be vegan.
Yeah.
When it comes to the massive negative impact of red meat consumption, that's just inarguable. You individually doing it has that harm too.
And white meat.
It depends on the white meat. If it's like wild
Chicken?
caught
Chicken,
fucking fish or
fish?
something, sure. Chicken in particular, I don't actually think so. I think when it comes to chicken, it might be the case that it's just really, really hard for you to find chicken that is the case that it's not like massively contributing negatively to climate change.
Yeah, chicken doesn't. Its beef is way worse than chicken in terms of climate change.
This is true, but it's like killing 3 people is way worse than killing 1.
No, oh no. Again, I totally. I am a bad person. I'm not a
Double
vegan.
dog,
I'm
double
with
dog,
vegan.
double dog.
Yeah.
I have a curious question seriously about veganism and being a vegan. I'm seriously, I want to know, like, what portion, and I've never looked at these numbers, but what portion of vegans are, like, what kind of number are do it for health reasons and others that do it for like animal rights?
There have been surveys on that. Mostly, it actually is health reasons, but it also depends on what you call a vegan and what other people call a vegan are often different.
Somebody that eats no meat or anything that has to do with
Animal
animals.
products. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Right.
usually we would call that a plant-based diet, and a veganism is a political philosophy. So these two things are different. So there is
Okay.
some when we do surveys,
Can
it's
y-
a bit more complicated. In fact, if you ask somebody in many parts of the world, are you vegan? They say yes, and they're actually only vegetarian. Especially in places like India, lots of vegetarians.
Can you be vegan but not on a plant-based diet? Obviously, no,
Yeah,
right?
like a desert island sort of example. No, the answer is
Okay.
yes.
Oh, so how would that work? Oh, go ahead.
Like a desert island, like a desert island, if you are on a desert island and there's a human there, like a corpse of a human, it would be understandable to eat that human because it's a survival situation. By the definition of veganism, it's about if there's an alternative present, we should pick the alternative that contributes the least amount of harm. I could actually bring up the Vegan Society's definition, and it's great for that. So in that
What
case,
about
you
in a
can't be
non?
plant-based because you're eating a human.
Okay, so what about in a non-island scenario? Could you could like philosophically be a vegan even if you don't practice plant-based and like diet?
Well,
Yeah, again,
It's-
when you get to these examples, you often get to some but there are a few medical conditions, that's literally 0.01% of the population, where you can make an argument. And actually, the example I like to give is vaccines. Vaccines were tested on animals, the COVID vaccines. So therefore, they wouldn't be plant-based because they were tested
If you're
on
eating
animals.
red meat, you're a bad person.
We can all agree there, yeah.
That's awesome.
Are you eating red meat, Smiley?
No, I only eat fish and chicken, and I try to eat as much vegetables as possible.
That's such a
If you're eating
mean
chicken, you're a
position.
bad person.
I that's fair. That's fair.
On screen.
I like it.
Beyond the moral
I would like an
Here in the
alternative.
US, the meat industry here is so
I can
fucked.
actually present you some alternatives, and I can recommend like phone applications, websites, things that help you. Like you can scan barcodes, websites that tell you.
Well, when I move out on my own, I'll be a lot better. The problem is my family, they choose the food that we get, so I often don't get to do that, and so I just go with chicken something or salad.
Have you wait? Wait. So if you can do it with chicken something, why can't you do it with something else like tofu something?
Usually that option is not available. Also, I do freely admit that sometimes I choose chicken because I like the taste of it, and I understand that that's wrong. That I'm contributing to bad
Yeah,
things.
just don't do that. Just don't do that.
Also, there's
Okay.
vegan.
I mean,
chicken,
eating,
like,
but that's
you know
the
what I mean.
thing. It's eating meat isn't inherently wrong. It's just the way that like
Yeah.
the way that we are doing it
Are you
now
saying that in the
isn't
same way that, like-
great.
Hold on. So are you saying that in the same way that like incest isn't inherently wrong because like what if there were two people who were born at the same time and they didn't know each other from birth or some stupid shit like that? Or are you saying like it's not even like generally wrong?
Well, what
How
if it
does
was
that have anything to do with how does that have anything to do with
like? Would you consider eating lab-grown meat
It's
wrong that
inherently
was
wrong. I'm
non?
telling you this
If
is a
there's no
ridiculous argument.
suffering.
You can apply to absurd claims. You can say
We
that, like
can talk about lab-grown meat because there are
I know
actually
that.
some things about that.
Yeah, especially the fetal
Wait, I'm
bovine
sorry,
stuff.
Okay, I know all the vegans are circle jerking each other here. Could someone please actually make a good reason why eating red meat or any kind of meat is unethical?
Absolutely.
It causes.
Planet. Holy shit, you're gonna kill yourself.
Yeah, which one do you want? Yeah.
Exactly.
Did-
That's why I think we can advocate for environmental changes and ban red meat, but until that shit happens, I'm fucking eating red meat. For the same reason why I think I get to drive a car
It's
around
like-
all I want, even though that there's a negative environmental impact.
If there was a log, if there was no law against drunk driving double shine, do you think it would be immoral to drunk drive?
I'm not talking about moral, I'm talking about legal here.
Yeah, you
right?
just
You asked if it was a moral question. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Kidney,
Sorry. Fine.
Kidney, do you think it's immoral to not wear a seatbelt?
Yes, fucking of course I
Why?
do.
Why?
Because
It's your
you'll kill
personal choice.
yourself. Holy shit.
Wait, do you think suicide is immoral?
It doesn't matter if it's your personal choice. If it was my personal
Yeah,
choice to
suicide
shoot you in the
is
head, it was probably bad to do it.
I don't think suicide is immoral.
Immoral.
Yeah.
Because you die when you commit
Is
suicide.
immoral.
Sure.
You make
So I
somebody
mean,
You
I
affect
think
other
it's a
people.
System, right? So as
Wait,
a
sorry,
utilitarian,
can we
I
actually
value
not talk about
people's
suicide? Can we stick to
experience and
veganism? I want to run
utility.
this down. Okay, so
Talk
again,
about-
here's the
talk
thing.
about it.
If I think drunk driving is still immoral, that's fine, right? I don't understand what.
So is red meat.
Can you tell me what the comparison is to red meat?
Absolutely. So in the case of drunk driving, you put yourself and others at risk. In the case of red meat, you put yourself and others at risk. We could talk directly about the risk that you do for like paying a hitman effectively to kill this thing, which we all have to agree is sentient, a pig or a cow. But we could also talk about the fact that it massively, drastically increases CO2 emissions even just for you per person if you're eating red meat, as opposed to literally anything else, including fucking chicken, even factory farm chicken. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit. Of course red meat is bad for both you and society overall.
Mhm.
It's directly analogous to drunk driving.
In fact,
Okay,
it's
no, no,
also
what about
often
what
the
about
most
driving
like,
cars?
Didn't
Do you
make
think
any
driving cars increases emissions?
yeah.
Of course it does, but it's not
Okay,
bad
so
to
then
do.
do you think driving cars should be?
No, you get the
immoral?
good you get.
Absolutely,
from
we
driving
should-
Cars outweighs the bad you get. The good you get.
Right,
is
so that's
safe.
No,
completely
yeah, but
subjective.
the goods you get from cars can be.
Facility that
human
you get
lives.
from red meat
You can
is
talk
way
about
more than
direct
I get
human
from
lives.
driving a car.
Double shine. No, this is not subjective. We can talk about direct human lives that are saved by the fact that people are able to drive cars.
I mean, I think
Cars-
if a
cars-
driving to work, that doesn't necessarily like we don't have to do that. We could just replace that completely with some kind of public transport.
Public transport is way better.
Morally good. I agree.
Yes.
You personally
As an
cannot build public transit,
individual-
though, can
As
you?
an individual, you would never expect someone to give up the ability to drive because
Because
it might
you
reduce,
can't build
emissions.
public transit on your own. You can stop eating red meat on your own. You can avoid drunk driving on your own.
You can absolutely choose.
here's the
You can
thing,
choose to
with
live. You
it-
can choose to live a life without driving a car.
No way, that's insane. For people who
Yes,
live in
yes, you
suburbs.
can.
In certain places, it's difficult. It should be made much better.
Hold on,
Wait,
you're
you
gonna
think
walk
poor
the nearest
people can just
fucking-
walk to their job all the time?
In most
I don't think poor
countries,
people can
that's
have
the thing.
good, healthy alternatives to red meat either. Cause
What the
considering
fuck
one
are
of
you
the-
talking about? Holy shit! What about chicken?
Oh, I think chicken's fine.
It's
Do
a
you think-
good
do you
healthy
think-
alternative to red meat,
Do you
isn't
think?
it?
Do you think
Yeah.
white
What about
meat is
fish?
ethical? Sorry, can we say? Do you think white meat is ethical?
Depends on
Yeah,
the white
more
meat.
than red meat. Yeah, it's an easy case.
Okay, I think that if you're gonna extend the argument, you have to say both are unethical.
Are you
Why?
making-
What the fuck would you do
How
that?
are you
If-
making a
holy shit,
difference?
The arguments I
Why
gave
are we
were
making
sentient.
distinct?
No, hold on. I want to respond to the argument. The arguments I gave were sentience. Obviously, the thing without a fucking prefrontal cortex is gonna be a sentient. And the other argument I gave was fucking CO2 emissions. Obviously, fucking red meat's CO2 emissions are way higher than chicken is, even per gram of protein.
Sorry, what's
If
the
you
argument
want
about sentience?
horses,
Can I
I'll
go
give
down
you.
sentience? What exactly is the argument there?
The argument about sentience was that when it comes to like killing a thing, which can experience good experiences, you deprive it of all of those good experiences in the future, right?
So what's the difference between
In
red
the
meat
case
and
of a
white
thing
meat?
without, in the case without a thing with in the case of a thing that doesn't have a prefrontal cortex double shine, it's not gonna have any kind of fucking experiences more than likely. So the moral
wait, I'm
argument.
sorry, do chicken not have prefrontal cortex?
No.
Okay.
Only mammals have those.
Yeah, so
All right,
prefrontal
okay.
cortexes are general.
If you're gonna try to
corollaries
make a
for
moral
higher,
argument based
conscious
on
experience.
consciousness, you're gonna be so lost when it comes to the.
No, I think he's got a
However,
good point.
however
Or
you
they have a good point.
However you
My
believe
electric is fine.
animals are conscious in this world. However you believe that they interact with this environment
Yeah, but-
is relevant at all to what you
Uh-huh.
can measure.
So here's the.
No, beyond no.
Like,
What,
big
I don't
math
understand.
What we
Like,
can
how
do-
are you making a moral?
Yeah, I'm about to
on
explain it to you. I'm
levels?
about to help you understand. I'm about to help you
If you're
understand,
gonna make
okay?
a moral argument, it's either
Okay.
They're
go ahead.
answering your
I
question.
want to understand, but you don't want to hear anybody explain it.
Sid, you've
Go.
been talking all fucking night. Let him talk. It's
Yeah,
like a one thing.
He's asking the same question over and over again.
Before I get a chance to actually fucking answer
That's
the
all you
question.
do is fucking talk. He's saying one thing. Chill the fuck out. Let him
No, he's not.
finish.
He's asked 3 fucking questions so far.
Okay, just let him go then. Chill the fuck out. You talk over everybody.
Double shine, calm the fuck down.
Dude, listen.
Yo, guys, everybody calm down.
The same thing. I'm the only one to actually argue about it.
Mad-
Talk about, oh wow, veganism
I'm
is
not
so
offended.
cool.
It's okay.
Double
Yeah.
shine, you're just gonna have to give me actual counter arguments to my position as opposed to
Yeah,
the
I
weird.
can.
where
I'm
you,
like, down. He asked a question. I'm gonna let him go.
Address the questions
no,
and
I,
give them to me.
since you're making moral distinctions based on you're making levels of speciesism here. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's either if you're gonna make a moral argument, it's either you're all for or you're all against.
No.
It doesn't
Wait,
make
no, we
What are
cite
you
different
talking
values
about?
for different species. You recognize that, right? Like,
I
a
don't-
human isn't going to have the same moral
between-
value as a chicken.
That's why I think we should prescribe humans moral value.
Is just as smart as your fucking dog. A pig is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be.
Pigs
I
are
don't
don't
think
eat
we
pork.
should eat pigs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we should eat dogs either.
Okay,
I don't think we should eat cows either.
Yeah, I think
I think we should
I
from
think
moral
that's just like
a virtue to animals. I don't think that makes sense.
in your moral beliefs.
Well,
Delicious.
I am curious about, I guess we could talk more about the levels of sentience. Obviously, even without a prefrontal cortex, chickens still do feel pain, especially in factory farming and things like that. So, obviously, that can still be considered immoral with the eating chicken.
So the fact that they like feel pain.
Yeah,
which
experience
answers your question a lot better,
discomfort
they can
of-
experience that pain. Obviously, they can sense the damage to their skin cells or whatever, right? Like they have nociceptors the same way fish do. But this isn't what gives it moral value.
They can
This
get,
is what
like,
gives things moral
stressed
value
out
is
from
the
being
impact it has
pushed
on
up together.
utility.
Mhm.
The existence of mammals, because of the fact they have a prefrontal cortex, means firsthand they can experience utility. They can experience good experiences.
Mm-hmm. So chickens can't
Sure.
experience good experiences or bad experiences, is what you're
No,
saying?
they lack a prefrontal cortex. They have no capacity for identity.
Okay, but why do we value that? I'm curious.
Then no, but they get stressed out and their feathers fall out.
Chicken either. For the record, you shouldn't eat
Yeah,
chicken.
that's
It
fair.
doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Alright, okay. So, what do you want? What do you want to talk about? Do you want to just?
Hold on. You shouldn't
You
breathe.
have a counter argument. Let me hear it.
What? Yeah, I'm saying why should we value an animal? Because again, I think that like the
same reason
argument,
you should
the
value
whole
a
argument
human.
about sentience seems like you've thrown that away because you just admitted we probably shouldn't eat
Why
chicken
should
either
I
because of
value
CO2 emissions,
it?
right?
No, I'm not throwing it away. Hold on. You
Yeah,
shouldn't-
he can
you shouldn't
change it
eat
without throwing it
heroin
away.
Either. You shouldn't eat fucking crack rocks. That doesn't mean that they have
Mhm.
sentience. There are lots of. You shouldn't eat a person because of the fact that you are doing something to that person, but you shouldn't eat other things because of the fact that you're doing things to the world overall.
Okay, did you not just say that both of them we shouldn't be eating because of CO2 emissions?
Absolutely. All of them we shouldn't be eating because of CO2 emissions. It's
Okay,
also
so
the case
then
that we shouldn't
why
be eating-
are you
it's
defending it
also
like
the
we
case that we shouldn't be
He
eating
was
red
giving
meat because of the fact
alternative
that it's
reasons too.
sentient.
Okay,
They-
yeah. So I'm just gonna say that I think we should be able to eat both of them because I don't care about
Can I
either.
eat human?
What?
You don't care about the CO2 emissions and the fact.
Okay, if we want to talk about the environment, we can go down the environment.
Wait,
or we
hold
can
up, I
focus
just
on
wanna
sentience.
ask
Which one do you guys want to go? I'm happy to talk about either, but I need you guys to choose one or the other.
I'm gonna take the base argument. Nope, I don't give a shit about the environment. Nope.
Sure. So
Alright,
can I
you're
eat
stupid.
human?
That's dumb.
Can I eat human?
That's a.
Yeah. So yeah, you want to just eat people?
No, of course. I don't think we should eat people.
So what?
No, I was talking to Officer Wolf.
Sure. Can I eat people with Down syndrome, Double Shine?
No, I don't think we should.
So what? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
value humanity.
What's the symmetry breaker?
I
between
think we
eating
should be able to
eat
animals and eating humans?
Since you're a goddamn, I forget the goddamn thing. I'm so damn tired.
People with Down syndrome.
Because you're a utilitarianism, if the culture said that it's okay to eat the female child because the fact that they don't produce enough utility, are you okay with this?
No.
Wait, that's a bad. Wait, that's not even. That's like
No, it's
anti-utilitarian.
hold on.
First fucking
Hold on.
utilitarians.
That's-
We were standing against social norms before everyone else was on things like slavery.
Mhm.
While fucking Kant was saying you should be able to kill your bastard child, people like fucking Bentham and Mill were saying like, hey, let's abandon slavery, let's stop killing people needlessly, let's do things to help people in the third world. Fucking hundreds of years before everyone else. Utilitarians have always stood against the fucking arbitrary social norms and in
Mhm.
favor of actual objective morality.
But in
I
the,
said
in the
objective.
case, hold on. In the case of the, in that case, because of cultural relativism and, where the hell was that? Were they?
Sinful.
Inuit people in Alaska. The fact that they were eating their child or putting their child down and killing them was because they don't produce enough equity towards the tribe, so they would die if they did.
First
because
of all,
they use too much. They
utilitarians
use
don't
too much
value equity.
resources.
I don't understand that. That doesn't even make sense. Second of all, the argument against that would be that those children could still experience utility, and killing them cuts them off of experiencing further utility.
You
Generally,
Not
there
if they're
would
in a
be more
society
utility
where they
if
would
those
be
children
burdensome.
existed. This is literally just the repugnant conclusion.
Also,
even if
Yeah.
everyone had, even if everyone was worse off in utility with those children, there would still be more overall total utility. So the utilitarian would be against that.
So the whole entire tribe should die because of the resource scarcity of these people in these Inuit
Officer
tribes.
Wolf, are you saying the situation you think that... Yeah, firstly, Officer Wolf, are you saying the situation there is like either you kill this one child or the entire tribe dies off, and you're asking us what do we choose?
Yeah.
It's basically
Yeah,
the
well,
trolley
I-
question.
Obviously, I choose to not let the
Why
entire
are we
tribe die.
entertaining this
No,
hypothetical? Like seriously, like in terms
Mhm.
of animal rights, you don't
It's
live
not-
in a survival situation, so I feel like entertaining this bullshit hypothetical.
It's
is
not a
just
hypothetical.
bloody-
It actually happened.
No,
It
you
actually
don't
happened.
live in
Wait,
a
it
society
doesn't
where
matter,
you
it's
live
irrelevant
in
to
a
the
Weird,
fight.
it's your
You
moral system
personally
has the
don't.
worst hypotheticals. We can run against it. Like,
He asked me if it's okay to eat humans. In the case that these Inuit tribes that were in Alaska that needed it for
Officer Wolf,
their
I'm talking in the
resources,
real
guys.
world, not in a video game. I'm talking in the
It's
real
not
world
in a
right
video
now. It's
game.
okay for me to eat you.
I think
If I'm in
without
your fucking
a
house right now with a
none of
goddamn
this is
pop in the back of your
possible.
head, could I shoot you and eat you, Officer Wolf?
We're gonna need a lot of adrenochrome.
We do. We need that adrenochrome.
Yep. So
I just want to
I
know
was
the
answering a
meaningful
question-
symmetry breaker between eating humans and eating animals. I like, or eating other animals that are not human. I just want to know the meaningful symmetry breaker.
the one for synth.
I think we killed Double Shine. I think whoever just said it, I think
Yeah.
just legitimately killed Double Shine. He's like, like fucking going crazy over
Yeah,
there.
he can
Yeah.
laugh, but he
I mean,
can't
he
provide a
doesn't-
counter
I mean,
argument.
like,
I
like,
I'll eat people
he's
with
just
Down
on the
syndrome.
morality aside,
He's
has
just
no
Joker
argument.
laughing instead of providing
Fuck you
fucking
guys are even
logical
arguing. I never
counter-arguments.
even
You got
brought up
blown
this
the
whole
fuck
thing
out
about
in the
killing
silence
other
and
people.
muted
That's your
himself.
argument with Officer Wolf. If you want to have it, fucking go ahead. I
Obviously.
asked if we want to talk about sentience or CO2 emissions, and nobody answered. You guys pivoted to
Holy
killing
shit,
other
we
humans.
all talked about
we did answer that though.
That's why it's a shit show, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, I got asked if it was okay to eat people, and I brought up the question that yes, in the case of the Inuit people, yes, it's okay to
Alright,
eat humans.
let's be
So,
honest
if it
here.
maximizes utility.
Yeah, in
Hold on.
self-defense, sure,
Yeah.
but you don't
So
live
hold on,
that way.
hold on 1 second. I want to bring up this one thing. So in this like utilitarian world, right? I believe it would bring utility if we went to your like local, orphan center and just started just consuming like Kirby.
Anyway, so what exactly is the definitions?
7-year-old and throw a 12-year-old too.
It's like a
guys.
menu.
Literally just Kirby.
I mean, it's a whole new meaning
What
of
do you
baby
want to
back
say,
ribs.
Smiley?
We can decide for us.
Well, because I believe to answer what is it, Warana's question was that the symmetry breaker is the prefrontal cortex. Isn't that right, Synth? That was your sort of distinction.
Well, no. That wouldn't actually be a symmetry breaker between humans and pigs. It exists in all mammals.
Okay, but I still think I'm pretty sure that chickens like have experiences and they can get stressed out versus
Yeah,
we
yeah.
kill, like,
I'm gonna be real with
21
you.
billion of
You
them a
being
year.
pretty
Who
clear about it
cares?
is not gonna really
Yeah.
keep my mind.
Yeah, but I
I
that's
do
fair.
agree with you,
And
but I
party.
disagree with Synth on that. Where I draw the line is animals and
Mhm.
and fungus on the other end. So Synth and I disagree on that, which we can have that conversation certainly.
Yeah.
There's people here that don't even think that even pigs, which are as intelligent as 3-year-old humans. So
Yeah.
talking about fish, we can do that as well. But yeah, like.
Oh, I just want to say that it's actually astonishing to me that all of like the non-vegans on the panel, all the fucking massive meat eaters, are like trying to argue in favor of the morality of chickens right now. Like, yeah, good job. I hope you guys quit that shit
You're
too.
sitting here like in defense of like the entire like you're like sitting here pro meat the entire time.
Pro meat? What are you talking about? I've been anti-red meat the entire time.
No, but
He's
you're like defending like
entire
certain
time.
levels.
He's making fun of the other
Better
arguments.
Alternative to red meat. The argument wasn't that you should eat chicken though, right?
No.
Like,
No.
It's a better alternative for people who can't like stop consuming meat. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not like
It's
I
a harm
don't think
reduction.
I'm gonna be able to get everyone to just like give up eating
Here's
meat,
the-
right?
Mhm.
But if I was to
I have
opt
a
for a better
question for you,
alternative, I'd
enlightened
like, hey,
vegan.
try chicken or stop consuming red meat. Like this isn't contradictory. I don't know why you got like there is no contradicting proposition here. Like I don't know what you guys are trying to like.
No, I'm
get
willing to give
gotchas
up that
for.
we're carnivores. It just doesn't seem the
I mean,
healthiest
we're
and doesn't seem the best.
omnivores.
Yeah.
Not specifically.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
carnivores.
The other, yes, the
Okay,
other
we can
primate
talk about
omnivores don't eat
definition of
red meat.
omnivores if you would like.
Can we not?
Eat meat
Let's
and
do that.
plants.
we don't
Sure.
need,
No,
we don't need
we
to
don't
argue
need to do that.
semantics.
No?
That's
Yeah, it
this
would be a
whole
semantic
that's been
argument.
this whole
That's-
Yeah.
panel has been arguing semantics. This
You know,
doesn't
Yeah.
mean
it's like,
anything.
it seems really stupid arguing this subjective assessment on what is or is not relevant here. Like, the problem is the consumption of the population, not the morality of meat consumption.
So
Look,
the morality.
wait,
of
so-
meat-
Well, we all decided that it is better to
Doing a
be
thing that
to get
kills
rid of
the
it.
thing,
My
we should probably think about it.
understanding
No.
is generally a human that consistently buys meat will
Yeah.
be the threshold purchase for around 900 animals. I think
Yeah.
is the correct account. Like
Absolutely.
I don't think like the utility calculus is definitely like fucked up there. Like no, it
So,
doesn't, like come in virtue. but, like,
I just have a simple question. If we're concerned primarily with the ethical consequences of, or let me just say the moral consequences more broadly of what's going to happen through continued meat consumption, red meat or otherwise, as say a climate factor, what is the proposition that would be more climate friendly and actually hypothetically applicable to, say, feeding the entire and rapidly expanding human population, other than literally
Yeah.
depopulation?
So how do you think we feed those herbivores now? We feed them plants. All the energy
No, yeah,
you
I,
can grow
I
comes from
get the
plants.
idea. That
We
didn't
could
answer
cut
my
the
question
fucking-
at all.
We could cut those herbivores out entirely and absolutely easily feed the entirety of the human population.
You realize you're going to have like a geometric increase per person per like just tonnage a year that's going to need to increase.
You
It's
could
not going
you
to be
could
like
make a
you're
lot
going
of
to
plant.
decrease.
You could
We're losing energy in the
yeah.
existing system.
It's
But
way
what-
more efficient to make plants than animals.
Yes.
You know how much
how are you
excess meat there is?
And we're talking about vitamin fortified like
Okay.
weeds too.
But how are you gonna make
Yeah.
more plants when you're worried about CO2 emissions?
Yeah, see,
Like,
that's
you
what I'm
either
saying,
gonna
it's
fight one part of the global warming, or are you gonna be able to be like, oh, we need to make more plants?
The
Well, there's
number
only so much
one
land.
contributing factor, there is not even close. The number one contributing factor is animal agriculture, entirely coming almost from exclusively red meat. That is the number one contributing factor to climate change. If you disagree,
It's not
I will
fossil
pull you up
fuels.
factoids.
Dude, your
Fossil-
factoids
even
are
above
not
fossil
relevant if
fuels?
All you're doing is isolating and siloing.
So true.
the
The facts aren't irrelevant.
Facts
That's
aren't
so
relevant.
Can I finish my
Yeah.
fucking sentence, you idiots?
Oh, why are you getting so mad?
So upset.
Because
you just
you're
said the facts
interrupting.
aren't relevant. I'm just.
I was trying
prodding
to
you a
say
little
a
bit, man.
I'm trying to finish a sentence, and you're picking it apart before I do so, and
Go
it's
ahead.
incomplete.
I mean, if you don't say stupid shit, I won't pick it apart.
Well, you know what? If it's stupid to you, that's probably because it was incomplete. You fuckwit.
Go ahead, Blackjack. Hurry up.
This
My
is a good
point
visual,
is-
Maria.
My point here, man, is that factoids in and of themselves do not create a total picture. Like, they can be representative of certain aspects of the problem, absolutely. And I'm not saying facts don't matter in their entirety, because yes, that is stupid on its face.
So the issue here is the claim made was directly refuted with an easily accessible empirical fact. So yeah, they do actually paint the entire fucking picture, because the entire picture is one fucking fact that was incorrect.
Which is that? Please elaborate.
The fact that we'd be like increasing climate change by switching to a plant-based diet. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, that doesn't make any
It
sense.
is if we no. Can I? Yeah, no.
Go
it's
ahead.
Not insane. Look at
Oh no, it's fucking crazy.
It's
It's
just
wacko.
crazy. Yeah, it's just
No,
incorrect.
okay,
Like the
li-
UN climate report and everything, like it's
Yeah,
Instead of saying it's
pseudoscience because
crazy,
otherwise.
can you let him finish his fucking point?
Yeah, Blackjack,
That'd
your
be nice.
position disagrees with thermodynamics. It's a little bit fucking crazy.
No, it's not, you twit. I'm not saying anything that disagrees with thermodynamics. You got to look at tillable land relative to population expansion.
What do we feed the current calories you get from meat?
That's not
Where
a
do they come
response,
from?
you dipshit.
Yes, it is, dumb fuck. Follow me along the line.
You literally
Where
have
do
to
those
feed the
calories come
animals,
from?
yeah.
Do they come from
We
other animals or do they
don't-
come from
I
plants?
believe everyone here presently understands how we feed, like, feedstock.
Yes,
that's not
they
the
are
question.
herbivores. They come from plants. We are giving them
Yes.
calories that come from plants. What we could do is we could not feed them the food, and instead, on that land where we grow them the calories, which they then turn in to less calories in meat
And
form,
when we
what
double
we
the
could do is
population
make sure
inside the
that
next...
we eat that.
You
So,
can
yeah, I
you
don't
can
think it's like
you
like
can
a
make
mere
hydroponic
claim that
like
as energy climbs
yeah.
through, like the ecosystem. There's energy loss.
Doesn't this seem
Yeah.
ridiculous? People like
I'm
eating
pretty
meat.
sure
Why
this
are
is,
we?
like, uncontested.
Why are we talking
No,
about
no,
some
okay,
hypothetical?
I can
People
answer
like
that.
eating meat.
I don't give a fuck if people like eating meat. Some people like to rape.
yeah, we should switch it's better to switch to a plant-based diet.
Literally nothing to this context, dude.
Like, you're saying things, but you're not adding any substance to what. Like, the point I'm making, you were making an ethical point about the climate damage imposed by the current food supply
Yes.
system broadly. What I'm saying is, we still have that climate contention with an expanding population. So if you care about that,
No,
the
we
only real
don't.
option is. What do you mean? No, we don't. We have an expanding
The
population. Every
majority of
demand
the
goes
impact
up.
on climate
Yeah.
change comes from A, animal agriculture, and B, the hyper fucking wealthy. It is not the
Yeah.
average person. Cut this weird antinatalist shit out. You are dead fucking wrong, and empirics
Yeah,
absolutely
also,
determine that to be the
also,
case.
it's just like trivially the case that population rates, while they are projected to rise in
Yeah.
low-income countries where the population rates or like population growth is highest,
Yeah.
they continue to drop as they become more industrialized.
Overpopulation's not an
I'm
issue.
pretty sure human peak is like 14 billion. Is my I could be wrong.
Which
This is
is
like
nearly.
We could house trillions of people if we infrastructure it correctly.
No, we
But
can't.
Okay, trillions is kind of
not trillions, but a trillion. But then we could also expand out there. Yeah.
People actually stop. Here's the crazy thing. People actually naturally stop breeding over time, like Warner just mentioned. We actually model like a logistic curve. If you take a look at the population growth over time in any given country, including globally, the growth rate is actually slowing already. This is because with better qualities of life, what people do is they spend less time doing shit like getting teen pregnancies, and instead they spend their time doing other things. There's not an issue with like, what if, even if you quit doing meat, climate change is still going to be a huge issue. Like, no, that'll be a massive fucking contributing factor to making this way easier for carbon sinks to clean up. You're
Yeah.
wrong.
And you can also, again, you can way more what's the word? Efficiently pack the plant growing places and greenhouses and things, and you can even stack them on top of each other, and they don't make the anywhere near the issues that the carbon problem, and they can feed people like no problem. You can fit them in like half the space.
Instead of
Here's a
utopianism,
question
wouldn't
for
it?
someone who's the vegan. How much agriculture or how much plants do you eat on a daily basis? Like
Less than
what's
the cows
the
that I-
gross
less than the
like
cows
what's
that I
the
eat.
gross
500
amount of
grams?
food?
Like with the weight?
500 grams? Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like
I'm
what?
saying like if you're getting rid of meat and you're substituting for a plant base, right?
And protein supplements, perhaps even.
How much more plants are you going to need to eat in order to fulfill the need of what you would eat from meat?
About 2,000
it's a test.
calories, and mind your macros and vitamins. Like, what's your point?
Yeah, like I don't
You're
understand.
counting
this.
hot
Yeah,
pockets?
but
or is
the
that not-
point is how much is that in square land in land usage?
So yeah,
Last
and
year
Then
is-
it takes up less space.
Like, this is
Yeah,
literally true.
yeah. It literally. That's what I
Why
would.
does
That was I
even
was
matter?
saying.
We're not. This is a total utopianism fantasy, right? We're
Yeah,
not going
it
to get to
is.
a point where like
Not
we're
really.
replacing all of the meat.
I mean,
production with
all
plant-
meat production would be
plant-based
utopianism,
farms.
but it's really.
happened because of a revolution. Like,
Yeah, you think it's inevitable? Yeah, talking about utopianism.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about? Revolutions do happen, you silly person. Like it's a fact. It's happened over. history.
And so will this eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, the USSR that fell in like the fucking 80s. Yeah, that was
Mm.
that was your best Marxist revolution.
The
Yeah.
greenhouse is free.
Yeah. So here's the thing. What we're asking for isn't a
Post
we-
imagine a better world.
So here's the crazy fucking thing. We're not even asking for systemic change. We're literally just telling you, hey, stop doing this obviously fucking bad thing. Stop drunk driving. Don't smoke cigarettes. Go fucking vegan. Like, holy shit.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not
so
gonna
just
stop
to
sounds
be
like
clear,
you
I
just
don't
want
think I'll
control.
convince everyone
Yeah,
to
you
go
ain't gonna
vegan, not
stop.
in my
You ain't,
lifetime.
you're not gonna
But
stop
once
me from
you
doing that.
But the
sorry.
goal is to reduce
Stop
consumption.
controlling
in general.
other people.
And I don't
It's a
think that's like
difference.
a crazy fucking goal.
Obviously, yeah. The tone is like, you know, but he's ultimately synth is correct.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Tone is more. So the two most effective ways, two most effective forms of rhetoric are ridicule, right? So really fucking aggressive tone, really condescending, and the other one is logic. I've given you both of those things. Being nice
Yeah.
to you is
Yeah,
the
dude, I don't-
opposite of effective.
I
We
don't
have
care
direct
about
feelings
this
on
fucking
this.
tone
We're feelings I don't give a
shit,
fuck
like-
about.
For real, I don't give a fuck,
Think
dude.
I'm
Okay?
nice
Like-
and I'm
Yeah. No, I was just saying. I'm just. Yeah.
Be
I'm.
vegan because of me then. If you don't like synth, that's fair.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Maria's more vegan than I am. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not
Before
myself
I was
fucking
like-
vegan.
Yeah, I'm a level 10 vegan.
Mhm.
We have a cult.
Sorry.
You get levels and you get a different robe. Yeah.
She's nice.
I haven't looked at
Do you get badges per level you go up?
societies before.
You
It-
no,
like
you
it's
get a sash.
possible on a cultural
Oh,
level.
nice. So it's-
Unironically,
it's
I
like
might
boys
be a
and Girl
pedophile, but
Scouts.
at least I'm not rude argument.
Did you say you're a pedophile?
No, he
No, I
was.
said you're unironically giving the argument. It's
Synth-
effectively just saying you're a
Synth
pedophile,
pedo
but at least not
canceled?
rude.
Whoa,
Yeah.
careful, buddy. All right, we might have another Twitter arc if you start saying that word. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the stream just go down? I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't need the stream to be
Bro.
exploding here.
All right, so quick question: why do I have to take personal? Why do I have to like remove the utility from my life when instead we could advocate
So
for
just
policy?
to be clear,
Because it
you're not getting more
advocates.
utility out of eating red meat.
I am
No.
absolutely. Yeah, I get
Drastically
it.
dropping. You're dropping your
He
utility.
says he's
Yeah.
getting more
Unless you take
utility.
consumption
From
of
eating
meat.
red meat, my
Sid,
friend.
You're getting more utility. Do you think getting high off of
Oh,
heroin
shit,
it gives you
unreal
more
how many
utility,
years of life you
and then
live.
you
Like,
die?
It's easily 10 to 15
That's
years
not
of
a
life
fair-
lost.
Like your
on average.
Yeah.
value from meat is
That
not
doesn't matter. People eat fast food.
Okay.
Food absolutely reduces your lifespan. We absolutely allow that.
Oh no, red meat specifically. Red meat is a fucking carcinogen.
So good.
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
seriously,
but
what's your
why-
response?
we are.
to
I'm
that?
allowed to do that
environment
if I
is
want to.
shitty
I
for
have
you.
no
No,
reason.
we're not making it
garbage
legal.
for you.
Like, of course, you're descriptively allowed to do
It's
that.
garbage
no one
for your health,
disagrees.
dude.
We're making a normative case that you should, you ought, stop consuming red meat.
Why would I ought to do that? That doesn't make any sense.
You
Why,
just
why am I
treated
ought
your
to?
health and ignored all of them and had no counter argument.
I enjoy
Can
eating
I just
food.
ask you,
or
what
I
moral
enjoy doing
system, like,
drugs.
what are your moral axioms? Like,
My moral, I'm a hedonist.
you're a hedonist.
Yeah.
So you want to
Well, then
maximize
that.
your pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you think
And if I-
your
if I
pleasure,
pleasure
from
from
consuming
eating
red meat outcompetes 15 years of living? Are you serious?
If I want to make that choice,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I would rather eat red meat every day than live like 15 years than when I'm at my oldest.
Right, and the point is, people do make that choice. You have to reckon with the fact that that's what reality is right now.
Yeah, how can you tell me it's morally
Yeah,
wrong,
but
though?
it could be easily overcome.
People will drastically drop that 15-year lifespan loss, and you'll still eat
People
meat.
always make choices to eat
do you
unhealthy
mean?
stuff
That's
or
what
engage in
about the
practices that
smokers.
might
We should all the time, bro.
harm themselves.
Smokers do that all the time.
Smoking is bad.
Stupid. Smoking is stupid.
Smoking is immoral. I don't think smoking is immoral.
You are a dumbass if you smoke.
You can say that I'm a dumbass. You can't say I'm immoral for smoking. You have to
Oh
tell me
no,
why
you are
it's
immoral
immoral.
if you smoke. You are hurting yourself and others around you. You're a shithead if you smoke.
Sure, we can talk about
You're not
but I'm
fucking
saying from
killing
my damage, okay? If I'm talking like from how is it affecting me, right? I don't think you can tell me it's immoral.
Oh, hold on.
So you're
If
an
a
egoist.
hedonist, I actually can tell you you're immoral because you're killing yourself, you dumb fuck.
I get to make that choice of what my pleasure
If you're a
usually
hedonist,
is.
you want to maximize your pleasure.
Ending my life as
Maximize
a
your
pleasure.
pleasure.
Well,
Consider
this is
their
what
long
hedonism
term.
means, okay?
Hedonism does not
and it's
consider
just
their
like
long
the case that the lifespan you lose from smoking cigarettes doesn't
What
now keep you in the
Doubleshine
pleasure
thought
of living
hedonism
for
meant
that
is just like when you like do whatever you want, bro. That's what hedonism
that's
is.
just
You don't ever think about
Doubleshine's
anything.
philosophy.
I
Mhm.
fucking hate
Do you
fucking...
consider like morally? Do you think it's your responsibility to consider other like beings, like
Yes.
not just humans, but like I'm
Yes.
asking Doubleshine specifically, like as a hedonist, do you think it's like do you take some responsibility as a human being to take like to consider other human beings into it?
Other human beings, yeah, because I think that like
How does that
so
equate
no-
with your philosophy?
Okay, sure. Can I explain it? All right. So
Yeah.
I think that in a hedonist, again, I don't know if maybe this doesn't go straight to hedonist. This is just my philosophy. I don't have like the greatest words for this. I believe that hedonism extends to more than just my utility, but also creating a society in which I benefit the most. So for example, I think that like overall creating a society that is
In
most
which
beneficial to the
you
most
personally
people
benefit
is
the most, or the most
utility,
people?
right?
Okay.
That's what I was
I
gonna
would say
say.
I would say like
Sounds like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I didn't hear what you said.
No,
So
he
you
said
think
he
you
said
would
it sounds a lot more like a society that works better for you rather than other people.
Yeah.
Well, I want a society that maximizes my happiness, right? But a society, I can't.
You could achieve that by being a vegan and and then a few years later.
I promise I'll elaborate. Okay, please listen. I don't think I can get people to buy into a society that strictly maximizes my happiness. For example, I can't tell everyone, well, you're not allowed to kill, but I'm allowed to kill.
No, I know
right?
the Destiny
So I believe
argument.
in a
Okay, can I
social
just
contract.
ask you a
I
few
believe in a
questions?
social
I wanna,
contract
like,
where
I wanna-
everyone gets to maximize their own.
We all know.
utility
We've all
as long
heard
as we
Destiny.
accept
We've heard him
certain
say it too. Okay, we heard the Destiny argument, right? So
Sorry,
if you
I'm sorry.
agree-
Is Destiny in the room right now? Do you want to argue with him?
Well,
I don't think
if you
social
want to- if
contract
you
is a
want
unique
to-
Destiny position.
I don't think he wants to defend your stupid position on veganism. But specifically when it comes to your claim that you think that you want to build a society that maximizes your happiness, you want to do actions that maximize your happiness, if you are living for 15 extra fucking years, 15 extra years of good health, and then 15 extra years at the end of your life, right? It's absolutely.
Or you can
okay.
do
You're gonna
play
be
video
really
games and
fucking
shit.
more.
How do you
Do a little extra you gain
See,
for
this is why utilitarianism strips the human spirit out of everything.
How
Just
do
rip
you
it right out.
how do you constitute
irrelevant.
how do you wait,
Dude, it's
Sam?
like the fucking
Sam,
like the
Sam,
fucking quick taste of meat is worth 15 years of life for these people.
how do you
Yeah.
constitute someone else's happiness? You can't.
What the fuck
They're
are you
ha-
talking
they're
about?
more
How is it
happy.
easy?
Like for example, if I want to ride a motorcycle knowing that I have a significantly higher chance of dying earlier, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to ride a motorcycle. I'm also
Holy
allowed
shit!
to like.
Please stop saying allowed to. We're
Wait,
not talking
so
about allowed
just
to.
to be clear, as a utilitarian,
Okay, fine. Sorry, morally. Okay, I don't understand. Like you guys are saying I'm immoral for
According
choosing
to
to
your
eat red
moral
meat
system,
because
you're
it
immoral.
kills me.
Holy shit!
No, I
According
don't.
to your moral system, you're immoral.
You can't tell me what my utility is. That doesn't make any sense.
What the
Wait,
fuck are you
what
talking
do you
about?
think
Of course,
pleasure is? Can you just tell me what
easily
pleasure is?
Yeah, I don't think
The
lifespan
definition
is
of
pleasure. For
hedonism
example,
very clearly just a
listen, I would
brain
rather
state.
live a fantastic 30 years of my life than suffer for 80, right? Lifespan
so
is
just to
not
be
a
clear,
simple
not
measure
eating
of
meat
What the
isn't
fuck are you
suffering.
talking about?
I
You
don't
live
know
a
which-
worse 30 years
There's
of your life.
plenty
Yeah.
of meat
It's a
substitutes.
fucking
He's making
example.
he's
Jesus
making a
Christ.
rhetorical point. I think that's pretty clear. He's not being literal. He's making
I'm
a
saying that,
rhetorical
yeah,
point.
exactly. Lifespan isn't the only measure of utility.
But you can have, if you take away the meat, you can still increase that like you can increase the pleasure in other ways and then move on later on. Go ahead.
Let's grant him the premise. The whole point is to maximize pleasure. So, Doubleshine, If you killed yourself right now, if you pulled a gun out and blew your fucking brains out, would you be maximizing your pleasure?
Man, I hate making this hypothetical because this is like basically justifying suicide.
But yes.
Which I don't see as immoral.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. In certain
Okay,
cases. In certain cases.
This is a really hard claim to make. I don't know if I stand that like. Yeah, that's a yikes
Yeah,
one.
double shine.
Would
You
you
die
maximize
right
your
now,
pleasure
you
if you
cut
did
yourself
that?
up from like
Oh.
a future of pleasure. That's just like trivially true. Like,
Don't even like. Hold on. Double shine. Right now, yes or no, would it maximize your pleasure? This is an easy question.
So the reason
you
right
kill yourself.
now, no. But for example, a year ago, I would have said yes. Right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That someone who is suicidal.
A year ago, you would have said yes. You would have been incorrect a year ago, right?
You can't say that for sure though, right? You have no idea.
Well, no, it's just
can.
trivially
What
true.
are
That
you
it's
talking
incorrect for
about?
you because a year later you're already conceding that it wouldn't maximize pleasure.
Yes, and later in my life, I could decide against it, right? Like
Sure,
again,
but
this is
the
the
point
I
was that it was
don't
wrong a year ago.
I want to go
You
down.
conceded that. I don't know why you're trying to argue that it isn't the case that you were wrong a
Listen,
year ago.
I think that people have the right to commit suicide. Basically, I think that if you
We're not
believe that
talking about
the
right.
or sorry, moral right.
You
I'm
know
sorry, I know you guys.
you have the right to do double shine?
What's up?
Right there, brother.
Hey, all right. How about you just stay silent and just keep
How about
sitting
you
there,
shut
all right? Get
the
your
fuck
guitar
up?
back out, all right?
How about you stay
Alright,
silent?
tell me why I'm morally not allowed to commit suicide.
Because it doesn't maximize
I'm
your pleasure.
actually gonna say like you have a weird definition of hedonism if you think they if you
That's why.
actually
That's
think-
why. I don't know.
I'm
If
gonna
it's,
say
I don't know if it's
despite how
hedonism, all right?
stupid this guy's morals is, like hedonism is not directly or align with a long-term utility. That's
Yeah,
that's
he's
no,
different-
it's not-
that's
it's-
a
And as
no,
Barfit
totally
fucking
different
demonstrated in the
philosophy.
70s, it's a self-defeating theory. Okay, I hate egoists.
Alrighty. It is getting that time, and
Oh shit, it
you
is.
know, we
God
gotta do
damn.
this. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and boot out the people who weren't really who didn't really talk, didn't really say anything, and then we'll go into wrapping this up. So, this makes it easier. I know how to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we don't have to go through people. Yeah.
Everybody just got voted up.
There we go. Alrighty. So, we'll go person by person. Go ahead and just tag yourself, tell us your socials, and give me what you thought about the panel. We'll start with you, Double Shine.
Yeah, what's up, guys? My name is Double Shine. Twitch.tv/double_shine. Also, Double Shine TV on Twitter. Overall, this was a lot of fun. Came in, got to make some people really mad, and yeah, it was a fun little topic at the end there. Glad that we moved away from talking about history for like 2 hours. It was a fun panel. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You're always welcome to come back. Invalid.
By the way, sorry, real quick. I love you guys. I'm sorry. I know I came in really hot.
Nah,
I
you're
love
good.
you
No,
guys.
it was great.
I'm
That was your
trying to
point.
go-
No, it's not your fault.
All love.
Yeah, you're
Mhm.
yeah. All right, Invalid being our newcomer of tonight.
Hey, how's it going? So I'm invalid_arg_. You can find me in various places at the same tag there. I do appreciate the panel, especially Synth. Even if you're a soulless utilitarian, I appreciate the banter. And good to see y'all.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Marina.
Maria.
Oh yes.
Hmm.
Yes, my name is Maria Terrano. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm the vegan. Yes, and everybody should be vegan. Yes. In fact, if you search the word Dominion, it's a documentary. It's an Australian documentary, 2018. That documentary will turn you vegan. It's basically 2 hours of slaughterhouse footage. If you watch that and still think animal agriculture is ethical, you know, maybe you're a psychopath. So.
Double Dog.
My name's Jason. I'm a psychopath, and I think killing all those animals and eating them is a good thing. Including unicorns, if they did exist.
They do. They do exist.
Well, not anymore. We ate them all.
That's about
Alrighty.
it. Honestly, I'm kind of new to the political thing and the panels and stuff like that, so I'm actually just kind of sitting back and seeing what's going on.
All right, Big Mad Crab.
Cool. I'm a Big Mad Crab on both Twitter and YouTube, and I have music on Mad Crab and the Dancing Lobsters on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find your music platforms.
Cool.
That's about it.
what was your thoughts on the panel?
This is fun. Well, despite what I also wanted to say like no hard feelings or anything. I also feel the love from this panel here. It's a fun time.
Blackjack being our other newcomer. Blackjack. Okay.
Who?
Officer Wolf.
I'm Officer Wolf. I thought the panel was pretty great. I liked the banter between everybody, and that even though that everybody has some opposing views or memes around, that at least some sort of intellectual banter can take place. You can find me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Officer Wolf.
Simp.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the panel. It's really, really fun. I know I got to make a couple people here mauled. Double Shine was a bit seething there for a second, but I enjoyed the discussion. I really enjoyed all of the arguments that Warna and Maria made in particular. Those were really good. And I love these fucking panels. Can't get enough of these fucking political shit show panels.
Smiley.
Yeah, Smiley P. I'm pretty much the same way. I love it. But yeah, Smiley P on YouTube. On Twitch though, I am Lactating Cowboy because that was used to be my name. But I go with Smiley P now, and my profile picture looks like this. That's why I turned off my camera. Although on Twitch, it's the dude dabbing. It's a little he's doing a thing. Anyway, yeah, check me out. Panel's great. Love it.
And Warna.
Hey, I'm Warna. Follow me on my Twitter at Warna. Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
No problem. As always, I'm Queen Alexa, aka Alexa. I've been in the Twitch public sphere for almost 3 years. I am around with everyone. Our next panel will be with Rob Noor on Wednesday, 8 EST. It will be a scheduled panel, 2v2. Don't miss it. We'll be working with the biggest names. We are a new and upcoming Discord, so if you can invite your friends, invite the people, make it bigger, help us, because, you know, I need all the clout I can get. Give me the power, the raw power. Okay? I need all the power, because we're taking them all down. We're taking everyone down. Everyone's on our chopping block. #1 Discord. Anyone steps up to us, we're putting them down. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I love you guys. These panels are always fun.
To destroy Dylan.
Alexa, can I say one more thing?
What?
I just wanted to say honestly that I've just recently jumped into this kind of stuff, like I said, but this has been extremely refreshing. Outside of this, in social media and political discourse between different people and parties, never ends up well on one side or the other, and I really appreciate this community, honestly. So.
Well, we're glad to have you. All is welcome, but the Nazis, they can stay the fuck out. Stay out of my Discord. Fuck off. No Nazis. Stay out. Don't
Fair enough.
I'll
What
allow
about
the tankies.
what about
I don't
not?
like them. I'll allow the goddamn tankies. More than I will the Nazis.
What about the non-Nazi fascists? How about those?
That's fine.
Those are fine. Okay,
everyone
but
else
no
is
Nazis. If you're an
I'm
Italian
gonna wrap
fascist,
the
you're
panel
fine.
up.
Yeah, that explains why I'm here.
Yep. Thanks for wrapping the panel up. It was great, as always. We do open panels all the time.
Yep, love them. They're the
This is
best.
what we do here. Welcome to the political shit show.
Come on
It's always a
yourself.
shit show. It's in the name.
All right.
All right.
Everyone, get the fuck out of my life.
Right.
Get out.
Yep.
Get the fuck out of my
Good night,
life.
everybody.
I'm late.
Have a good one.
All right.
Get the fuck out of my life.
Going.
Here we go. Here's the post show. Although I guess there's people still in the live there. Was this your first one, Maria? I saw you did the thing with the video with the counting. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, there's actually a better one, but I couldn't find it. But that's
Yeah.
the amount of animals that died since you loaded the page in the world. But there's another one that's the amount of animals that an average person in the US contributes to. So it's, like if you eat 90 kilograms, that's how many pigs you ate. So it's like you can put in your, how long have you been vegan? I've been vegan 5 seconds. I've been vegan 1 year. And it tells you how many animals you saved.
Vegan won't
Put in
go
5
vegan.
dollars.
I'm actually gonna start eating more meat just to spite you.
Like, why? Like,
Just
I'm gonna
because.
own
Yeah.
twice as many slaves because you abolished
Good.
slavery in your state.
Good.
Yeah.
Slavery based.
Well, hey, that's contrarianism.
This is an anti-Nazi server. That's what I thought.
Yeah, slavery.
But slavery's all right.
Slavery and Nazis don't go hand in hand.
All right, I guess I'm gonna get going then.
So that's
Alright.
what Warnell looks like. Interesting.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask Warano, is that Operation Ivy? Is your logo there? Oh, I don't think we can hear him.
We can't hear you, Warnell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Also,
Pretty interesting debate.
yeah.
It was fun.
I'm
It
being
was,
dumb. I'm on push to talk.
How did it?
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
Pretty
No, no,
much.
I-
It was just veganism, and then it just got time to wrap the band
All the
up.
non-vegans admitted
Oh,
they
okay.
were wrong, and they individually decided to go vegan right there and then.
Yeah, Warana, I followed you on Twitter, I think. This is, hold on, I'm gonna put on my thing. You have a different profile picture on Twitter. It's the, and do you have those little symbols that look, like Arabic or something?
Yeah. I have
Okay.
a different profile pic.
Yeah, cool.
I change profile pics a lot, so.
That's fair. I try to keep it consistent because I like to brand.
I get tired.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been fun, guys. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Oh shit! I'm still streaming.